O'Reilly here. If you are stuck in a timeshare you no longer want, my friends at Lone Star Transfer can assist. Over the past 15 years, the family-owned company has helped more than 30,000 owners break free from their timeshares. They'll provide a guaranteed solution to exit your timeshare. So please call Lone Star Transfer 833-594-0079 or visit LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Wednesday, in a press briefing, Golden State Warrior coach Steve Kerr put forth that the ICE agent who shot and killed Renee Good in Minneapolis committed murder. Now, ordinarily, I don't pay much attention to ill-informed opinions because there are so many of them you'd collapse mentally trying to process it all. But Mr. Kerr's denial of due process is actually dangerous because so many Americans have little idea that everyone in this country is presumed innocent until found guilty by a jury of their peers. Apparently, old Steve doesn't know that or doesn't care. That puts him in a hyper pinhead category. Steve Kerr is what I call a virtue signaler. He plays to his ideological base in San Francisco. The problem is he has influence among some younger Americans, including players on his team. And he is leading them to a very dark place. If due process is not respected in the USA, we are all on our way to anarchy and witch hunting. I'm sure Steve has not read my book, Killing the Witches, but he might wise up if he did. However, wise is not a word I would associate with the coach. Left-wing ideologue, a much better description. Back in a moment. By now, you've probably heard about All Family Pharmacy. They're fast, reliable, and committed to getting you the medications you need without the runaround. When everyone around you is sick and you know you have to be prepared, or when you don't want to wait in line for maintenance meds, you absolutely need All Family Pharmacy. They've got antibiotics, antivirals, Tamiflu, ivermectin. Order online at allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the first alert for Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Let's get the conversation started, St. Louis. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
So what did you make of Governor Keough's State of the State address if you happen to tune in? We're going to have some bites of that just a little bit later. I don't know that there was anything terribly shocking or surprising about that. He just laid out his plan for what he wants to see done, including on that tax reform. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Hey, good morning. Mike Ferguson here. Also, you probably heard this news. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, he passed away yesterday. Of course, kind of a lightning rod, but very thought-provoking conversations that came from his social media presence over the last few years. So he died. He had, like I said, prostate cancer as well. All right, so sad news, but he did spur on a lot of discussions and conversations. All right. One of the interesting things that's happening with REACH, Reproductive Health, our friends here in the St. Louis area, is their growth has been phenomenal. I would say almost miraculous. When you look at how they put this organization together, basically when there were a lot of problems with Thrive back in the day. Well, now they're taking on literally a statewide assignment. Those Choose Life license plates, well, those are now going to be overseen by REACH right here in St. Louis. Levi Hart, the CEO of REACH Reproductive Health, was with us on Tuesday's program, and he explained what's going on.
You've
seen those Choose Life license plates.
Oh, yeah.
All over the area. A lot of states have them. Missouri has them as well. Well, I guess the oversight of that is going to be handed over to REACH. And so that's not just an administrative thing. This is kind of a big deal. And we're now joined by Levi Hart from REACH. And Levi, this was kind of exciting. I got the email last night and yesterday evening. And what's happening here is, for, I guess the technical way to put it is that REACH is now overseeing the Choose Life license plates in Missouri. And a lot of people might say, well, wait a minute. What does that mean? Doesn't the Department of Revenue just hand out license plates and you can buy a certain one? But this is actually a program that you're going to be involved in administering.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. We're incredibly blessed. Kevin Roach, the founder of Choose Life of Missouri, reached out to us, and he was ready to hand over the reins, and the board was ready as well. And he saw everything that God's been doing through REACH, so he got a hold of us and said, hey, is this something you want to do? And yeah, so for something like this, there are organizations that are behind each one of those specialized license plates. And they work in partnership with the Department of Revenue. So we work in partnership now with the Department of Revenue to have these Choose Life of Missouri license plates. And what's beautiful is not only are you able to drive with these license plates that show people the Choose Life. I mean, you're a walking billboard in that way. But in doing so, you are also supporting life, because a portion of the funds that go towards those plates will actually go towards seeing parents empowered and babies saved through REACH reproductive health.
Yeah, and that was the follow-up question because it's one thing to make your statement, and there's a massive value in that, especially when people see Choose Life all over the state with as many as. That's one thing. That's the cultural influence. But what you're talking about is now with REACH overseeing this. When you get one of those plates, it's going to fund some of your pregnancy life-affirming work. So we're actually talking about what the medical center that you're actually designating, saying what comes from this is going to go specifically to what?
Yes, that's a great question. So our goal is to bring in those who are seeking abortions. So we want to get those that are seeking abortions because they're abortion vulnerable, abortion minded. Many people just think abortion is just another form of birth control, because whenever we get them into our center, we give them medical care that they need, true reproductive health care, and then empower them to choose life for their baby through offering them resources. And that's everything from financial, vocational, educational to parenting classes. I mean, diapers for a whole year. And then we plug them back in with the local church. So not only are you driving with these plates down the highway, which it may think like, really, do people look at those plates? Yes. Could you imagine a pregnant woman or a boyfriend whose girlfriend just got pregnant? He's driving along, they're in this crisis, and then they're behind your car, and boom, Choose Life right there. And not only that, think of that. And then next thing you know, they're in our center, and they're choosing life. So it can really come full circle, and we're waiting for the first story to come out like that.
Okay, so is this effective already, or is this in process as far as the administration of it?
This is effective. We've been chomping at the bit to announce it to everybody, but we really wanted to get all of our ducks in a row before making it public. But as of right now, well, actually, I mean, as of a few months ago, REACH has been running it. But now we're putting it public because everything's in place so we can operate smoothly. So if you go to chooselifeofmissouri.org right now, there's a button right up there up top. And when you sign up for a plate, we are going to be the ones operating everything, making it happen. Okay. And when it comes to how do we do? You just mentioned click on there. So a lot of people, if you got to go renew your tags, can you do that, at the revenue office or anything like that and say, I want this kind of plate, or do they need to go through that website? Yeah, just go to that website, chooselifeofmissouri.org. That's going to be the easiest way to do it, as opposed to having to go in person and jump through various hoops, because if you go through our website, that link is just going to take you to the paperwork you need, et cetera, and answer any questions. There's a great FAQ on there. So chooselifeofmissouri.org, and there's a button right up top to either sign up for the plate or to renew your plate. Okay, we're visiting with Levi Hart from our friends at REACH Reproductive Health. And so the big question is going to be, we want to support it, but people have to get their tags. How much is this going to cost over and above what you just have to pay normally to get your tags renewed? Yeah, so for the yearly, it's $50 a year. That's it. So $50 a year. And then I think there's a 3-year option as well that will either get a little bit cheaper or you're just paying it ahead of time so you don't have to renew every year.
Right. Okay. And then a portion of that then goes to you, or is that the $50 that gets donated? And when we're talking about Choose Life Missouri, this is something that people could get across the state. Is this all going to be designated for REACH in particular?
Well, what we plan to do in the future is, for now, as we get it up and running, it's going to help us be able to pay for the administration side of it. Mm-hmm. But in the future, what we would like to do is be able to give grants to other pregnancy centers throughout the state.
Good. Yeah, good. That is a phenomenal long-term approach, so people understand this. So somebody in St. Joseph or Kansas City or something, they say, well, I want to choose life, but is it going to help us save lives in our community? So eventually that is going to happen. More of these that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, them just simply having that plate in their community will support their local pregnancy center, because ideally it's going to drive people to their pregnancy center. But our goal is in 3 years to be writing grants regularly to pregnancy centers throughout the state.
Okay, so give me an update on the REACH's work here. I mean, I've been to multiple events, and obviously you and I don't know how many conversations you and I have had over the last year and a half or so. How are things looking in the locations that are up and running now? Because I think the last time you were on the program here with us, the hope was to beef things up to basically have more hours available and more people available, for walk-ins and for people in those crisis situations. Where are the operations right now here in the metro?
That is a great question, Mike. So by God's grace, we surpassed our budget by over $200,000 this year. Wow. So what that's done is it's helped us to form a budget for 2026 or for last year rather, and it's helped us to form a budget for 2026 that is projecting, larger than this previous year. And so we're immediately hiring to have our St. Peter's Center up and running full time, our North County Center operating full time, and to beef up our mobile medical center staffing hours when the mobile medical center is out in the city outside Planned Parenthood. And then so full time on all of them. So yeah, we're going to be able to get it completely rolling. And then by the end of 26, we hope to, again, be in the similar position as this year, where we're surpassing budget and we can start projecting to build a brick and mortar center in the city. Yeah,
big focus on the city, because there's such a vacuum right there right now with what's happened over the last couple of years. So, I mean, I got to think that's just a crucial target for life-saving work.
Oh, big time. I mean, so right now we supplement with the mobile medical center out there, because it's essentially a micro version of one of our brick and mortar centers, so it works. And a lot of people from the city were able to drive to our clinic in Bridgeton. But yeah, to get a center in the city is absolutely paramount. So if there's a listener right now and you have, roughly $1 million that you'd like to invest and just make it happen tomorrow, we can make this thing happen.
Well, and also there are going to be some of that's going to qualify for that 70% tax credit in Missouri as it is.
Oh, Mike, you're such a good interviewer. Yes, absolutely. And that is huge to everybody listening. Any gift you give over $100 it qualifies for a 70% Missouri state tax credit. So that's literally, you give $100, $70 is wiped off your state taxes. So your gift is essentially $30, but actually less, because the remaining $30 is still federally and state deductible. And that's all the way up to, you can claim $50,000 of that a year. And Mike, actually right now, and maybe another time we can get on and talk about this, we're trying to beef up our $50 a month club. So essentially our recurring gifts. So we have about 50 recurring donors right now, which is amazing for just being operating for a year. But what we'd love to see is that get up to 250. So News Talk listeners, if you want to be a recurring donor to Reach Reproductive Health, outreachforlife.org, we need you. Yeah,
that's what I do. It's just automatic, it comes out there. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead, and you just mentioned the website, but let's differentiate those websites for the work that you're doing here with Reach, and then obviously those license plates again, so people know where to go, because we're, another week or so, every January plate that's going to be renewed, people are looking at that right now.
Yes, exactly. So if you're looking to renew, you want to get a Choose Life license plate on your car right now, go to chooselifeofmissouri.org. That's chooselifeofmissouri.org.
All right. And then just to connect with you directly at Reach, the website is what?
Yeah, so our REACH website directly is outreachforlife.org.
Okay, 314-912-1019. That's the number to get involved. And yes, I do have the Daily Monkey update for you just ahead, right here on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
Ronald Reagan once famously said, "Government is not the solution, government is the problem." When it comes to economic growth, government can be a roadblock. With red tape, regulations, and subsidies, government stifles entrepreneurship and also props up businesses that deserve to go under. Unlike government, free markets encourage risk-taking, freedom to succeed or fail. Governments shouldn't be picking winners and losers, the market should. Free markets benefit the business owner and the customer by encouraging competition. Free market enabled a young man named J.C. Hall selling picture postcards in Kansas City to turn his idea into Hallmark cards. In St. Louis, the free market made it possible for Adolphus Busch to turn his father-in-law's local beer into the world's largest brewery. A free market also means you get to send your kids to the school of your choice. Learn more about free markets at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Wow.
I am in mourning today.
Yeah.
I know. If you're watching on the stream, I'm wearing my Nolan Arenado Cardinals jersey today.
Well, this is a nice jersey.
It's a great jersey.
Solemn occasion, but nice jersey.
I know it is. It is. Okay, we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes, and of course, more details are in the news dump here. But Nolan Arenado is no longer a Cardinal. I think we all kind of knew this was coming. This was about 2 years in the making. I think we knew this was coming, but I get it, but it sucks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, the writing was on the wall, but that doesn't make the date any easier to swallow.
It doesn't. All right, so many things going on today, and this is one of those days where I just you can't fit. everything in because there's so much going on. For instance, here in just a little bit, I got the details in the news dump. I think 620 will go into more detail on it. There were actually 2 big court cases regarding the whole gender ideology and gender dysphoria and the law.
Oh.
Okay, the Missouri Supreme Court issued a ruling on a Missouri law. And then, of course, the Supreme Court, as we all know, is hearing cases from West Virginia and Idaho, which will have nationwide implications. And by all accounts, it seems to be going the right way. But you never know until the court issues a ruling, which will likely be in the summer at some point. So we'll tap into Susie's expertise on this. I do have a couple of the sound bites on there. Justice Samuel Alito was just so simple and direct in his question, and the wrong side of the argument can't answer simple, basic questions. And then Ketanji Brown Jackson, wow. She's like she speaks a language all to her own. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is when I play sound bites, I do my best to make sure they're in context, because I can take a sound bite from anybody and clip it certain ways and make it sound like something it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Just by omission. And so I saw this sound bite and I went and listened to it, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, I mean, it makes no sense. It's not a matter of I don't understand her legalese because she's a lawyer and she's a justice and I'm not. It didn't sound like, it's not even so much that it didn't sound like coherent, fluent English. It sounded barely human.
It does seem to be a trend on the left.
Well, and with her in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, and then of course you've got Clarence Thomas, who, I mean, you better bring your A game if you're gonna go toe to toe with Clarence Thomas.
Oh yeah.
And so his comments were just way too long for his questions and stuff. So we're gonna get into that a little bit, because it's really not just about we got to have our side win and go Riley Gaines or whatever the case is. It's a lot bigger than that. It really is, because I think at some point it's a matter of law. It's also a matter of reality. It's a matter of society. And what's happened is a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, the side of not even conservative, because there are plenty on the left who are going, okay, whoa, this is way far enough. You're now grooming children. You're now actively doing this. You're enlisting the state through schools to try to do something. This is bad. And then, of course, Rufo, exposes the Disney meeting creative where they're saying, no, that this is our agenda. This is what we're trying to do. The Bud Light thing happens, the Target thing happens, and then they're going after children. And so people have said that enough is enough. And there's an aspect of the court looking at that, and there's the law, but the left is asking that the law reinforce a divorce from reality. And so the court, it seemed to me, in those bits and pieces that I heard, the argument was over what's actually real. Mm-hmm. And so if we actually stick to what's real, then we've got hope that the Supreme Court will go the right direction. Now, the Missouri Supreme Court actually issued a ruling that is absolutely 100% correct, which is encouraging, because you never really know how the Missouri Supreme Court's going to go on anything. Because we've got this bizarre way of selecting justices, including on the Supreme Court justice, that I wish we'd throw out. I wish we'd get rid of the Missouri plan, because we elect a governor. The governor has almost no say. Basically the lawyers themselves say, here are your candidates, pick one of these. And then if the governor says, no, I don't like any of those, then basically they're going to pick one. So in most situations, the governor simply appoints the judges, and that's not really how Missouri works. So we're going to get to those. Also, Scott Adams died. Yeah. And so it's interesting because how the headlines were framed depends on what your view is, because he said some pretty dumb things back in the day, and he never apologized for them on race and things like that. And he says, I was trying to be provocative. I'm trying to start conversations. Well, it cost him his career. Basically what he did. So very thought-provoking. And then, of course, there was a lot of discussion over faith at the end of his life. And so we're going to get into that as well, because, it's funny. I mean, he started off as a cartoonist, and I love the Dilbert cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Those are great. But he's, He's gone now, and there's, I think, a kind of a ripple effect of the conversations and the discussions and the debate and people reevaluating things as a result of that.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, Governor Kehoe announces his plan for eliminating the state's income tax. And this would involve a vote of the people. So here's basically what he's saying. And so a few more details in the news dump that we'll talk about in more depth with Camellia at 6:35 is there are things not being taxed on sales taxes. If we widen the base of sales taxes for things that aren't, like, for instance, if you subscribe to Netflix, that whatever that fee is on Netflix, there's no sales tax on that. You go to the movies, you buy a movie ticket. I think there's a sales tax on that. Now, they just build it into the price. He says, but if we widen that base, then we can step down and eventually eliminate the income tax over a few years. So are you willing to pay taxes on some things you're not paying taxes on now in order to eliminate the income tax? So we'll go into that in a little more depth. Cardinals trade Nolan Arenado away to the Arizona Diamondbacks. I knew it was coming at some point. Arenado was my favorite Cardinal. Well, he's not a Cardinal anymore. But he was my favorite Cardinal. I hate this, but we'll talk about it.
It's more than a rebellion. When your teen is slipping into drugs or alcohol, when social media and pornography consume their time and their mind, when depression and even suicidal thoughts cast a shadow over your home, as a parent, you feel powerless. There is hope. At Turnabout Ranch, troubled teens step away from the chaos and into a clarity of nature on a working cattle ranch. Care for horses, learn responsibility, build trust, and rediscover purpose. It isn't theory, it's real work, real therapy, real healing. Families from across the country have found transformation right here, just when they thought hope was gone. If your teen is struggling with addiction, harmful online behaviors, even weight management, call right now and get the help you all need.
800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. 800-219-2494. That's 800-219-2494.
Hey, Jamie Allman here. When your car needs attention, trust who I trust. Benchmark Complete Auto in Valley Park. 25 years as a family-owned and operated company, Benchmark is your Napa Auto Care Center for nearly every maintenance and repair, using the latest technology and top-quality parts. Need help with the bill? Well, ask about Napa's Easy Pay financing. Mention Jamie Allman and NewsTalkSTL and get 10% off. BenchmarkAutoRepair.com. BenchmarkAutoRepair.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. It's slaughter on a mass scale in Iran, and as far as we can tell, it shows no signs of slowing down. Iran's judiciary chief is now suggesting fast trials and the speedy execution of those who have been arrested for defying the ruling theocracy.
This comes despite warnings from President Trump. The human rights activist news agency says more than 2,500 people have died from a bloody crackdown. Mr. Trump has warned Iran of possible U.S. military action over the killings. Iran is preparing for the mass funeral of 100 security force members killed in the demonstrations.
Correspondent Andrew Stewart says Elon Musk's Starlink is offering free access in Iran, helping people to get around the government's internet blackout. The top diplomats of Denmark and Greenland slated to meet today with Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio at the White House.
Naja Nathanielson, Greenland's Minister for Business and Mineral Resources, urged the Trump administration to listen to the people there.
We have no intention of becoming American. It is not something we have aimed for, worked for, but we have worked towards more collaboration with Americans for many, many years. We are an American ally.
Nathanielson says Greenlanders are not sleeping. Children are afraid. President Trump has pushed the issue and is considering a range of options, including military force, to acquire Greenland.
For others, this might be a piece of land, but for us, it's home.
Greenland is a semi-autonomous Danish territory. I'm Ed Donahue.
February 1st, President Trump's deadline for cutting federal funding to sanctuary jurisdictions. Saks Global, the owner of upscale retailer Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus, is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Wall Street, the Dow futures down 166 points. The NASDAQ futures off 154. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-723-2233. 800-723-2233. 800-723-2233.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
If you're worried about losing your health insurance through Medicaid, we have great news for you. New government regulations have expanded the Affordable Care Act. And now you may qualify to get health insurance for you and your family through the Affordable Care Act. Call now to learn if you qualify. We know the healthcare regulations regarding Medicaid, and we've helped thousands of people find quality, affordable health insurance. Plus, all our research is free to you. So call us. With just one call, we'll shop from hundreds of different insurance companies to find you the right affordable health insurance plan. So if you're worried about losing your Medicaid insurance, call right now. Speak with a licensed agent and find how you may qualify for a new health insurance plan.
800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. 800-479-0931. That's 800-479-0931. Paid for by the Health Insurance Hotline.
On the next, Larry Connors, USA.
Today's story behind the story, the Kansas City Hyatt disaster. And I was there.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson.
I'm not like the rest of you. I don't make mistakes.
Susie Moore.
What you're telling me doesn't sound logical, my dear.
Get up! Get up! In case you hear the alarm. Get up, St. Louis.
You need to get to go. I need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL. Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
All right, proponents of the destructive gender ideology lose in one court. Pretty big decision. And they might lose in the most important court in the country. We don't know yet, but they might. Also, the governor makes the challenge. Let Missourians decide if we want to eliminate the income tax. And he's got a plan for that he wants lawmakers to put on the ballot.
Okay.
This is going to be an interesting set of discussions over the next couple of weeks on this. Because, early in the week, we try to get a hold of a state lawmaker and have them give us an update on what's going on. So we're going to get some reaction to this. So we're going to talk to Camellia Peterson about it at 6:35 as well from our friends at Americans for Prosperity. And a future Hall of Famer is not going to finish his career as a Cardinal. I appreciate your condolences. Susie actually texted me condolences last night.
I did.
I appreciate that.
I knew that was painful.
It is. And I'm wearing my Nolan Arenado jersey today to commemorate his time in St. Louis and the absolute mess that the front office made of the Cardinals while he was here.
That's kind of almost unforgivable.
I think so. All right, 6:06 right now. Let's go ahead and dump some news on you here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, Missouri's Supreme Court upholds the law that protects minors from gender mutilation. Okay, so in a unanimous decision, the court rejected a challenge to the law that bans minors from receiving the cross-sex hormones, the puberty blockers, and certainly the gender mutilation surgeries in the state. The court also upheld the ban on Medicaid paying for any of the, I'm going to use their words, so-called transgender procedures or medications for anybody.
Okay.
So we'll go into more details of what that actually means. Pretty straightforward on this, because they didn't say if you're a grown-up and you want to do this to yourself, you can. They just said you can't make everybody else pay for it.
Right.
Yeah. And then also, of course, what people are watching around the country as well is the U.S. Supreme Court case right now. The Supreme Court hearing arguments in two cases, but obviously the same baseline question from West Virginia and Idaho, and that is whether or not boys who want to identify or pretend to be girls can compete in girls and women's sports. So West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey was on Fox's Hannity last night after the arguments, and he says that he's confident that the court's going to rule in their favor.
We think West Virginia really won this day, and we're very, very bullish about success here in June or July.
And of course, the U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled to allow states to ban the sorts of things that were challenged in Missouri as well. So 620, let's go into more depth on 620 so we've got time to sort of dig into some of the bigger aspects of this. Okay, Governor Mike Kehoe calling for big changes to how Missouri taxes us. Okay, now we knew that this was coming. We just didn't really know what the details were going to be on this. In the State of the State address, he called for an elimination of the state's income tax over multiple years. So we're talking 4 to 5 years. And an expansion of what would be subject to sales taxes. So basically increasing the number of things that could be taxed on sales. Services like streaming TV channels that aren't taxed now, for instance, would be under his proposal. Yep. The governor called for the proposal to be put for a statewide vote, which I believe under the Hancock Amendment they would have to be because there would be an increase or new taxes involved.
Sure.
Yep. Kehoe is also asking lawmakers to cut hundreds of millions of dollars from state budgets.
Well, that's a challenge, I'm sure, but they need to consider doing that.
I loved what he said when we were chatting with him last week. When he said basically he made the comparison to with his cattle.
Right.
If you keep putting feed out there, they're going to eat all the feed. And if you keep putting money in front of politicians, they're going to spend it all.
No one's going to push the plate away and say, oh, no more for me. I'm full.
Yeah, precisely. And it was funny. I saw a leftist activist on social media last night referring to, he reposted a story about the governors asking for $600 million in cuts. And he sort of glibly says, fun fact, the elimination of taxes on capital gains cost the state about $600 million. So he was, you can tell he's kind of doing that. See? And I'm going, yeah, that's the point, to reduce government.
Ooh, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think that was the flex that you think that it was, dude. Yeah. We're kind of like on board there. We're on the same opinion on that.
And therefore.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the anti-ICE and anti-DHS protests still intensifying around Minneapolis, and those are going to be spreading obviously in other parts of the country. And that's after the fatal shooting of Renee Good last week. As DHS deploys more agents to the area now in response to that. Now, of course, the state of Minnesota, like the state of Illinois, filing lawsuits against the Trump administration, saying that the federal agents are using, and I'm quoting here, unlawful and dangerous tactics. That's part of the lawsuit.
Okay.
Border czar Tom Homan was on Fox's America's Newsroom, says he is not worried about those lawsuits.
We're enforcing laws enacted by Congress. If these protesters don't like it, go protest Capitol Hill, because we're enforcing laws that they enacted, and we're not going to apologize for doing it.
Now, keep in mind, though, that there have been some judges who have ruled against ICE and other federal agencies, but the cases are all kind of different, right? So it's not like one can necessarily tell you everything about the other one.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, so where this goes from here, well, we think it's going to be ugly, and that's basically the only guarantee we've got at this point.
Lawyers are keeping busy.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay, a Missouri lawmaker from Brentwood files a bill to allow people brought to the U.S. illegally as children, so the dreamers, the so-called dreamers, to qualify for professional licenses in specialized career fields. Democratic Representative Ray Reed says his bill would remove state barriers that prevent DACA recipients from working in those specific fields if they've done the education and passed the required exam.
This is the opportunity to bolster our workforce and show a sign to the immigrant community that Missouri is a place where they should feel comfortable and safe planting their roots.
So as of right now, that bill has not been assigned to a committee. So they're in the country illegally. They came as children, but they've never gotten full legal status.
Yeah, and I don't even really know where things stand with DACA, to be honest. So I would have to learn more about that before I formed a full opinion about it.
Yeah, I'm going to guess in 2026, in the current climate,
That bill's not going anywhere.
Bill's not
No,
going
no,
anywhere.
it's not.
He's not reading the room very well. This is a virtue signal bill.
I was going to say, I don't think it's even about he's a Democrat. It's,
Yeah,
What room is there to read? I mean, he's going to,
A phone booth.
Exactly.
The back big table at Denny's. where the
Yeah, no,
Democrats
I
meet.
agree. It's not going to go anywhere. I was just thinking in terms of my own opinion on
Yeah,
it.
sure. All right, St. Louis City's public school district loses full accreditation.
What?
Yeah.
They had it?
They had full accreditation very briefly.
Oh.
Yeah, just in the last year or so, they were bumped back up to full accreditation, and there was a lot of questions as to whether they deserved it. The State Board of Education downgraded the district's status to provisional accreditation on Tuesday. That means the state could step in and assume more oversight of the district. There's no word on what they're going to do. Now, among the reasons cited by at least one of the school board members is the district's pattern of failing to comply with audit requirements.
That's a problem.
It's a big problem. All right. By the way, there's still hearings on the whole Epstein thing.
Yeah.
Former President Bill Clinton defied a congressional subpoena to appear for a closed-door deposition in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. So the former president and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, were both summoned to appear for a deposition. Now, Committee Chairman Congressman James Comer says they are going to move to hold the former president in contempt.
As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
So a criminal contempt of Congress charge carries a punishment of up to 1 year in jail and a maximum fine of $100,000 if convicted. He's not going to jail. No, they're not going to jail. Just say.
No. But, like they say, the process is the punishment. And this was a legitimately issued subpoena that he chose to disregard. So the question is, what's Hillary going to do today?
Right.
I'm guessing she's going to do the same thing that Bill did.
That's my guess, too. Yeah, I think you're right. All right, today's St. Louis monkey update. Their whereabouts are still unknown, and the city's animal control has stopped looking.
They just threw up their hands.
They did.
We're
They
done.
just threw up their hands and their tail. The active search was ended on Tuesday with no sign of the vervet monkeys that have been spotted in North City. The advice remains the same. Anyone who sees any of them should call animal control and not approach them or take them in. Jerome.
Okay.
Just saying. But by the way, we're not giving up on the search here at NewsTalkSTL.
No.
If the city drops the ball on this, then we're going to pick it up and run with it. We've got a report later on today. We've got a reporter out on assignment looking for the monkeys.
Yeah.
So we will
important.
keep you up to date on that as well.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more. And let's depart, no destination. Making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough.
With all of the celebrations, anniversaries, and holidays coming up over the next few months, where are you going to go to get that special something for the special people in your life? Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, of course. Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, found 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Newsteaders Fine Jewelers. Richard Newsteader and his team serving our region since 1961 with awesome, honest jewelry solutions. They've got everything from diamonds to wedding engagement rings, hand-engraved items, pendants, earrings, and so much more. You can find them 24/7, wowdiamonds.com. That's Newsteaders Fine Jewelers, wowdiamonds.com.
Scott, can you believe it's already been more than a decade since the Queen of Carpet sold flooring to St. Louis area contractors?
I know, but I don't have to be a king to offer contractors today's lowest prices.
Yes, contractors owe it to their customers and themselves to shop at Best Buy Flooring for the largest in-stock selection of carpet, carpet tile, sheet vinyl, laminate, hardwood, luxury vinyl plank, and luxury vinyl tile.
Plus 3 convenient locations, North County, South County, and Metro East.
Open 7 days a week.
Best flooring, best selection, Best Buy. Best Buy Flooring.
Kathy Connor from Connor Roofing is here. Kathy, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Vic.
You know, when you need a roof, I don't want to call a stranger. I want to call you.
Yeah, thanks. At Connor Roofing, we're more than just a roofing company.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 1993.
And year after year, storm after storm, you guys are always there.
Because this is our home, too, Vic. Our kids go to school with your kids. We cheer for the same teams. Go Blues!
So support your neighbors. Call Connor Roofing at 314-375-7475 or CONNER roofing.com.
Thanks, Vic.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL.
All right, one decision and one set of arguments over how far we're going to let the left-wing destructive gender ideology set the rules. I mean, essentially, that's what the subject matter is about here. Missouri Supreme Court gets it right. And so the question is going to be, what will the U.S. Supreme Court do? So I'm tapping into your legalese here on this, Susie. It's 6:18 right now. Okay, so let's start in Missouri here. So there was a challenge. The ACLU and the Lambda Legal Foundation, which is basically an LGBT law firm, essentially, is what they do. And they challenged the law that was passed by the legislature, signed. I think that was still under Mike Parson. I don't think that was last year. I think this was before last year.
I'm not even sure.
It was either Mike Parson or it was Mike Kehoe, but I think it was Mike Parson. But it doesn't matter. So they challenged.
Mike.
It was Mike Parson, yeah.
No,
it was Mike.
it was Mike.
Yeah, it was Mike, yeah. So it was, the law basically said that maybe it was last year because I think Nick Schroer led that one. Anyway, so the law that was passed and signed into law, the bill that was passed and signed into law, says that if you are under the age of 18, it doesn't matter who signs off, parents, doctors, whatever. You cannot get injected with any of the hormones. You can't get puberty blockers. You can't get any chemical treatments. You certainly can't get any body parts cut off or mutilated or altered, nothing like that. It's just we're not going to allow you to do it if you are under the age of 18, and we don't care who consents.
Correct.
Now, another law that was being challenged was the law that says Medicaid in Missouri will not pay for any of those things for anybody. So adults who wanted to do that to themselves would not be able to do it through Medicaid.
Right.
You know, if they have private insurance that does that sort of thing, I don't know if that exists or not, but if they do, they could do that. If they want to pay out of pocket, they can do that. But taxpayers aren't going to pay for it in Missouri. That was challenged as well.
Yes.
And so the Missouri Supreme Court, and this is interesting, Susie, unanimously upheld that law. Now, they didn't comment on whether the gender stuff is good or bad or who they think is right or wrong.
No, they just
moral.
analyzed the legal issue.
They just said that in this case here, the state legislature had the right to pass these laws and that the challenges did not rise to the level of discrimination or anything like that.
Yeah. So it says it affirms a 2024 Cole County decision. So that tells me if the decision was 2024, it had to have been Mike Parson.
Right.
But in any event, they said that the challengers were trying to say that this was discrimination based on sex or transgender status. And as the court noted, the law is classifying things based on age or medical use, not on any particular demographic category aside from age, which age you are allowed to discriminate on for certain things. So, they basically said because it doesn't fall into the category of laws that trigger that higher scrutiny. It's just, is there a rational basis here?
Right.
And there is. And it's been laid out very clearly. And the Supreme Court has affirmed that the Tennessee law last year was affirmed that it was very similar to this. And I think the Eighth Circuit has also had a similar opinion regarding an Arkansas law. So this is straightforward legal analysis. You can have whatever your view is on it, but this isn't about that. This is about what the law requires and provides.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that there are some people who think that, well, we just have an arbitrary line in this country of 18 and other countries have an arbitrary line of 16 and on. Well, you have to draw arbitrary lines somewhere on some things. Our culture has decided it's 18 or 21, depending on what the situation is.
Right.
Now, I would like to see that more consistent on something. I think we're going to draw a line. Let's draw a line. But, you have to do that. And so in this case here, the court got it right. Does it surprise you at all that the Missouri Supreme Court was unanimous on this, just giving that it seems to me the Supreme Court could be a little unpredictable in Missouri?
Maybe a little bit, because this is an ideological issue. And I haven't read the opinion, so I don't get a good sense of, but it sounds to me, based on the article about it, that the court did a very straightforward, here's the issue, here's the, standard we have to look at, just a straightforward legal analysis. And maybe that was how they managed to get it unanimous, because even wherever someone falls on the ideological spectrum, they have to agree, this is the right law.
Right, because let's talk about what should be, the way it's supposed to be. The judges, I mean, if they are Democrats, they can have their opinion on whether or not they like the law.
Sure.
But that's not what they're being asked to rule on.
No, that seems to get lost in the shuffle, particularly these days, because we're seeing a lot of judges that seem to be ruling based on how they feel about something, as opposed to what the law is, what the precedent is, and what, the proper legal analysis is.
Okay, so let's talk about the U.S. Supreme Court. So arguments in two, I mean, technically, I think they're two separate
consolidated cases.
But they're put together.
Similar issue.
Yeah, West Virginia, Idaho, both passed protect women's sports laws.
Correct.
Now, Idaho's, I don't know about West Virginia's, but Idaho's extends up to college as well, because I think the plaintiff in the case was a man who wanted to play in Boise State.
Yeah.
And so they said, no, we're not doing that. And so they just simply said, if you are male, doesn't matter how you feel, what you want to pretend to be, doesn't even, if you're male, the states have a right to say you cannot enter females' sports.
Right. Basically, the laws are framed affirmatively, which is, athletes are to participate in the division that corresponds to their biological sex. So it's not, you can't do that. It's, this is what you can do.
Right.
And
does that make a difference?
Well,
I mean, the practical impact is the same, but does it matter from a legal perspective how it's written?
It could, because particularly if it was worded that said boys and men can't do this, well, yeah, then you're like singling out a group and saying, denying that they can. But really the analysis is, they're not prevented from participating in athletics.
See, that's the key point.
Right.
You're right.
And so, yeah, but I actually think it's better to frame it in that affirmative way, where you're saying, if you are playing sports, you are playing them in this, your category is based on your biological sex.
Yeah, so
that applies to everybody.
Yeah, probably June, July, we're probably looking at a decision hand down or something. Somewhere this summer, maybe.
The Supreme Court term ends at usually the end of June. It sometimes can bleed over into like the first or second day of July. They never go past 4th of July.
Yeah.
So, yes, the big decisions sometimes wait till that last week in June or first week in July. This one will for sure be handed down by then. It could be earlier because it's only January. Right. So, they could come out with it in March or whatever. But it's a thorny issue, so it's probably going to take a little bit longer than some of the other ones.
And we can get indications of what's the justices are thinking by the questions and the debates that are happening.
You can, but you can't take that as gospel.
I was going to say, but caution against assuming we know how, because conservative media runs with us all the time, which is a little bit easy and tempting to do right now because it is a more originalist court than it has been in past years.
Sure.
But don't assume that just because a hard question was asked that justice has made up his or her mind.
No, you should never make that assumption. Now, it's fine to say, okay, based on the tenor of the questions, you can get a pretty good feeling of it. They seem to be indicating, they seem to be leaning that way. Certainly you can provide that analysis, but you have to be careful not to say, oh, we know for sure.
Right.
I mean, it's somewhat predictable. It's pretty safe bet that the 3 liberal justices are not going to agree
right.
with upholding these laws.
How much of this did you track yesterday?
Very little.
Yeah. Because there were people questioning. They're like, "Wait a minute, did Barrett show some?
She was showing some wanting to see how narrow they could make this decision. Yeah. So she's and that's her tendency. She's very much in the Roberts mold. She's going to want to make it as narrow ruling as possible. That doesn't mean that she's going to say, "Oh, these laws are need to be struck down." In fact, she's probably going to lean towards upholding them. But no, I didn't get to. Yesterday was a day from hell. So I didn't. I really wanted to listen to the argument, but I didn't get a chance to. I obviously heard the snippet about Ketanji, Brown Jackson, and Alito. Yeah, I obviously that one was everywhere, and we covered that as an independent article. So I did hear that part of it. But yeah, I mean, they each have different styles. I don't. Until I can sit down and actually just listen to the whole thing, it's hard for me to gauge. But
okay, well, let's talk about the impact here, regardless of how the ruling goes. Let's talk about what this means to us. You know what? You've got your kid, and they're at school at Parkway, or they're at school at Hazelwood, or they're wherever the case is. They're in Alton, and they want to play sports, and but you're wondering, is your girl going to be the next one on the viral video getting the volleyball spiked into her head that cracks her skull, which we have actually seen happen.
Sure.
Is your girl going to be the next one on the field hockey team who gets, body checked into the bleachers? And that's really, really the heart of what we're talking about here. It's not just the ideology. It's actual the physical safety, and it's the fairness of the whole thing. So if they rule, as people are guessing they're going to, that these laws can be upheld, or that these laws are upheld, what does that say to the rest of the country? Does that outlaw states from saying boys can't be in girls' sports, or does it just say that the states can do it if they want?
The latter.
Okay.
Right. I would be shocked for a ruling out of this court that says not only are these laws okay, but this is how they all have to be. Right. This is just saying these states have made this policy decision determination, and it is not a violation of the Constitution for them to do that. The blue states aren't going to have these laws. They're going to have laws that are opposite, and those are going to continue to be challenged. So it's not going to be the end of the inquiry, but it is going to lay the groundwork for challenges to the blue state laws that allow for it. So it'll be interesting to see how they frame it and how they set that up. Because one of the things that they're supposed to do is to try to bring some finality to an issue so that there isn't this ongoing stream of litigation. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think this is going to be the ultimate end of it, but it's going to be a pretty important decision, assuming that they rule that way. Well, it'll be important either way, but particularly if they rule that way. Kind of along the same lines to me as the Mahmoud decision last year out of Maryland, which was about the parents' rights and having to be notified with regard to the curriculum, that sort of thing. It's going to be really important.
Yeah, because that ruling applies. I mean, all these Supreme Court rulings apply. That sort of ruling is going to apply nationwide, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll have to see how they frame it, but my sense is that they'll probably uphold these laws, but that won't necessarily be the complete end of the inquiry.
Yeah. All right. Got some thoughts on it? Let me know. Social media. You can also give us a call. We'll get back to this here in a little bit. 314-912-1019. We're going to talk to Camellia from our friends Americans for Prosperity about what the governor's proposing on taxes here in just a couple minutes.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Guess what day it is?
What day is it?
Bump Day.
Bump Day.
I'm calling for your Flashback Fridays 80s bump music requests. Go ahead and send me some songs that make you want to go bananas. How about that? And not all these Miss Monkeys. Send your 80s bump music requests to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
His verbal skills are limited.
Susie Moore.
Woman with the wild hair.
On NewsTalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, and the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert for Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Hanson's Tree Service at Hanson'sTree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit Hanson'sTree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention NewsTalk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. Hanson'sTree.com. Hanson'sTree.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
It is an honor and a privilege to have U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
Hey, I have to tell you, I don't know if I've ever told you this. In the 90s, what would this have been? Mid-90s. Yeah. And I was I worked at Grant's Farm, and I had a couple other jobs. In the afternoon, I would often hear and listen to Porcelli's Deli on the radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making me feel older than I already feel. That's just great.
Vic Porcelli, live and local, weekday mornings at 9 on NewsTalk STL.
There's only one place you can get pizza cooked over coals. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield Valley. Of course, Napoli Brothers has a great selection of pasta dishes. Between the pizza and pasta, trust me, you will not leave hungry. Then, a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, a wide variety of quality cigars, each offering a unique smoke. That cigar, some premium whiskey, all you need to do is enjoy. Lit Cigar Lounge and Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, Chesterfield Valley.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
NewsTalk STL.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right. For his part, the governor is calling for those bold moves.
Yes.
In Missouri.
He said that's what he wanted to do.
That's what he said he wanted to do. He wants the state income tax eliminated. Now it's going to be the legislature's turn. We're now joined by Camellia Peterson, our friend from Americans for Prosperity. Camellia, you were obviously watching every word, listening to every word of this. The governor follows through, has a pretty aggressive, to use his term, bold moves proposal for the legislature, for the lawmaker. But let's start with the taxes. He's asking essentially that we step down and eventually eliminate the state income tax. And in exchange for that, we broaden the base of what is subject to our sales taxes. Am I oversimplifying it, or is that essentially what he's asking?
Good morning. No, I don't think you're oversimplifying it. I think he laid it out pretty well, and that's the plan. I think it sounds like it will be a multi-step plan. We'll take the first, step this year because we have to put it in front of the voters to, they have to give the okay to move forward with everything. So, yeah, I really appreciated what he had to say about that, and I think that he emphasized that we're doing this in a really responsible way. And, he said something when he was talking about where Missouri is in the country and in comparison to other states. And he talked about, I don't know if you heard this, but if he talked about, he said he's tired of being in the middle of the pack and, just pretending to, like be satisfied with keeping pace with everyone else. And the one line in that entire speech that really struck me, that I think just rings so true with where we are, is he said, political expediency has confused survival with success. And that is so true because we've settled, and it's time to stop settling, and it's time to make those bold moves and, live up to our motto.
Right. Camellia, was there anything about his speech, and particularly in relation to the tax proposal, that caught you by surprise?
I think that we were all wondering kind of, were we going to do it all this year? Was it going to, how far out are we talking about as far as, the process to get there? And so I think that brought some clarity as far as, how it was going to work in terms of getting this first step done this session. And then once the voters approved that, then working through all the details and getting that phase out done.
Okay, we're visiting with Camellia Peterson from our friends at Americans for Prosperity. Okay, so obviously, the other side is, they're actually trying to bring back what the Republicans tried to tag Mike Kehoe with back in the campaign. They're saying tax hike, Mike, and they're pointing to, hey, you've got services now that would be taxed that aren't taxed right now. Therefore, that's a tax increase. And technically, that's correct. Things like streaming services. Now, there were some exemptions, healthcare and things like that. He said he would like to see exempted. So are we just rearranging the tax burden into different line items, or would this actually be a functional tax cut?
So I think it will be both. And I think that, first of all, it will give people more control over what they pay as far in taxes. However, he did talk about something that I think that we have to face and look at and, acknowledge, is that things have changed a great deal since our taxing structure was put into place. We are in a very digital economy. How we do our purchasing has changed drastically. And so that has to change, how we do taxes, too. And I think that we've kind of been in fits and starts, trying to get there when you talk about the use tax. And there's that, argument between, well, if you have to pay taxes on stuff you buy on the internet versus stuff you buy in brick and mortar stores. And, there's some good arguments to be made for doing it in an equal way so that tax burden is spread evenly across the board. And I think that's really what we're looking at. And I do think that in all of this, the idea is that if we do this right and it spurs so much growth in the economy, we will end up being able to reduce other taxes as well, including property taxes.
What about on spending? Did you feel like that was adequately acknowledged? Do you feel like there's some hope, some glimmers of hope of progress on reining in spending?
Yes, I will say it's probably difficult for them to give real specifics on that because it's challenging. One of the things he pointed out is that we passed Medicaid expansion in the state, and that really impacted our budget. And it's one of those things that we can't do anything with that. We're stuck with it now. And so that makes the budget a little more intractable. But there are lots of things because this COVID spending is going away. And we will see, we've seen in the Senate Doge Committee already, we've seen bills to clean things up and make things more efficient and get rid of these inefficiencies. And that's one of the things and that will save us money in doing that too. And that's one of the things that the governor talked about, is that he wants Missouri to align with President Trump's Doge idea because so he is appointing these task forces. He's having the agencies work with stakeholders in the community so that they come up with real life business efficient solutions to make government work better and leaner, because we're going to have to cut those expenses.
Yeah, Susie, I'm glad you asked about that. I want to follow up on that regarding the spending cuts because, he actually addressed the whole criticism of, you're going to be like Kansas instead of, people looking at other states that have done more, more balanced approaches on this. The spending cuts are crucial if there's going to be any tax cuts whatsoever. I mean, if you're just trying to come up with new revenue somewhere else and have the same budget, then you don't have to worry about spending cuts. But if you're going to cut the tax burden, you have to cut spending. That's just math. I mean, that's not deep-seated policy wonkiness. That's just math. So as you're in the Capitol, you're talking to the lawmakers in an election year. Let's be honest. Sometimes there's a little squishiness when it comes to actually cutting some of the spending and opening yourself up to that criticism. Do you think that there is a mood to be bold, to use the governor's terms, when it comes to not just cutting or changing the taxes, but also cutting the spending? Because he's talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts.
Yes, well, and I kind of chuckled a little bit at this part in his speech whenever he was talking about making those cuts, because he pointed out that the budget is a conservative budget, and the spending needs to be cut. But he said, come June, when that budget hits his desk, like he basically implied that he's going to be doing a whole lot of that line item vetoing on the budget. So I think that he is very cognizant, and he's basically putting the legislature on notice that, look, if you don't work out these cuts in the budget process in the legislature, I'll be doing that when it comes to my desk.
Okay, and I hate to be the skeptic on all of this, and I completely believe the governor that he will do that. That also allows cover for the lawmakers to say, well, it got cut, but gosh darn it, I tried. I put it in there. The governor cut it. And so there may be some political games that prevent some of those cuts on the front end where they should be. So I believe that the governor would actually cut those, because let's be honest, he does not have to worry about reelection in 2028 in this deep red state.
That's true.
Barring some massive scandal, which I just can't see because I've known him a long time, he's going to get reelected. So that would actually give lawmakers some cover, which is not the incentive to cut that I would like to see. I would like them to say, this is the right thing to do. This is what's good for our economy. This is what's good at reining in government. And so there's a little bit of that political nonsense that could be involved in that. But I hope and I suspect the governor is very serious about that.
I do too. And here's the thing, that this is where organizations like Americans for Prosperity come in. This is where the grassroots come in, because this is where it's really important for us to keep the heat on and to keep that in the conversation and that pressure on for the legislators to make those cuts. And I will say one more reason maybe for some optimism is we've had some change in the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of how that functions this session. Because the former chair of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate was a real obstacle for getting any of those kind of cuts done. In fact, forced more spending all the time. And I think, with Representative Dirk Deaton, chairing the Budget Committee in the House, I'm looking for good things from, those budget committees this year.
Camellia, as much of a political nerd as I am, I even get confused by this a little bit. So I'm hoping you can help us understand or explain a little bit better. So the governor lays out his agenda. The legislature is going to be charged with coming up with legislation that lays out this process for reducing the income tax. But then what's going to go to the voters?
Great question. Yeah.
Sure. So in the budget process, the governor lays out his proposed budget, and there are a set different categories of bills that different parts of the budget go into. And so the committees in the House and the Senate have to go through those, and they, make changes to them, vote on them, things like, and it really is, when they get everything done, it is really the finished piece that comes to the body for a vote. And they can either vote yes or no, and a lot of times a lot of them will vote no on some budget bills, because there's usually, I think, usually 18 or 19 of them that are separate that they go through individually. And so, if there's not agreement also between the House and the Senate on those bills, then they have to come in together and hash that out. And then once that's done, it goes to the governor's desk. The people's leverage in this is their legislators, because most of the legislators, if you're not on the committee, your leverage comes in, and if you're going to rubber stamp the budget bills that come to the floor, and whether you vote yes or no on it, the people's part in the tax part this year will be on the income tax part of the ballot.
Yeah, because if I am understanding the Hancock Amendment correctly in Missouri law, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, lawmakers, the state government can cut taxes without asking people to vote on it.
Yes.
But if they want to add new taxes or raise taxes, then they have to go to a vote of the people. So it seems to me that the governor is implying that, okay, I want to put not just the broader base of the tax things that will be taxed on the ballot, but at the same time, I'm going to ask him, do you want to trade one for the other? So they don't necessarily have to put the tax cut on the ballot, but it sounds like that's what he's suggesting as a package for the people. And so the lawmakers will have to decide whether they follow his lead to exactly what he wants or whether they have some other version of it.
That's correct. Yeah, it does have to any time because, like technically we would be adding those sales taxes back onto some of those areas. And I will point out, though, that like these are literally loopholes. They are carve out. So it's not like, it's not unfair to like spread this out onto those different things because, people who are producing, certain kinds of things that are tangible goods, in our communities, like they are having to charge tax for other people's production that they are contributing to the community is not taxed. So I think that, it really is in a lot of ways a trade-off, but because it technically is an increase on a tax in a certain aspect, it still has to go to the voters for approval.
Makes sense.
All right, Camellia Peterson, Americans for Prosperity. We've already tagged you as always on social media. Really appreciate the update on this. We're hopefully, I'm gonna try to get the governor back on either later this week, probably early next week, to go kind of through this all the way because this is really complicated. And he told us this, and Camellia was there. You were there with the conversation, and he basically just acknowledged this isn't a soundbite policy. This is deep stuff in the weeds because there's literally about $9 billion at stake here.
That's right. And I will say, if folks want to go look, I noticed last night that, the House bills, I believe, have, because he noted in the speech that Speaker Peterson and Senator Curtis Trent would be handling this bill in the legislature. And so Speaker Peterson did file HJR 165 yesterday afternoon. So that is there if folks want to look it up and go take a look.
All right. Thanks, Camellia. We'll talk to you again soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Camellia. There's two big court cases in the news, and both of them involve the basic question, what is a woman?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to update you on the news on that in the news dump coming up at 6:50.
Anything that I say, no matter how crazy,
Susie Moore
has to smile and laugh.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalk STL. NewsTalk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 101.9 and 94.1. NewsTalk STL.
License number E2014A.
Hey, it's good to see you.
At Grasser Home Services, we're looking for happy plumbers to join our team. Plumbers who are polite, honest, and do the job right.
And love dogs. They must love dogs.
Plumbers who treat customers' homes with respect, care about the details, and show up on time.
Know a happy plumber who's great with dogs?
Have them call Grasser Home Services.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Hi, I'm Dr. Alan Link, owner of the Dental Link. You've heard ads about teeth in a day, but did you know that you will be chewing on plastic, acrylic teeth? Here at the Dental Link, we can give you porcelain crown and bridge teeth utilizing mini dental implants that function much more like real teeth at about half the cost. Plus, mini dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Give us a call at 314-794-6464 or simply visit us today at thedentallink.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, this is Carl Higbee, host of Frontline on Newsmax TV at 5 p.m. Eastern, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, proponents of the destructive gender ideology lose in one court. They lose in Missouri, and they might lose in the most important court in the country. I've got the basics for you here in just a minute.
All right.
Also, we just talked to Camellia Peterson on the changes that the governor wants to make. I'm just going to break down a couple bullet points for you on that. And I did not mention this in the last news dump. I teased it, but I didn't actually go into the story. A future Hall of Famer will not finish his career as a Cardinal. I think I was trying to avoid talking about it because it hurts.
It hurts, doesn't it?
Right there. It hurts me right there. I'm tapping my Nolan Arenado jersey that I'm wearing right now. All right, 6:51. Let's go ahead and do a news dump here.
Successful dump. Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They get all the news.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, so we just talked about this in depth, but here are the basics in case you're just joining us. Missouri Supreme Court upholds the law that protects minors from gender mutilation. So in a unanimous decision, and I think that's significant, Susie, that it was a unanimous decision, the court rejected a challenge to the law that bans minors from receiving cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers and, certainly genital mutilating surgeries in the state. And the court also upheld the ban on Medicaid paying for any so-called, I'm using their word, transgender procedures or medications for anyone, because they ruled specifically in there, they saying the law doesn't say you can't do that or you can't get those treatments. The lawmakers just said taxpayers won't pay for it.
Right. And I just want to point out the decision, which, as you said, is unanimous, is only 15 pages. So it's even, it's like if you really want to go look and see how they ruled on this, it's worth checking out.
Yeah, and those are actually more digestible to the common man than what a lot of people might think sometimes. Sometimes if you get into banking policy or something, it's a whole different thing.
I can't even come.
Yeah, stuff like this. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Okay, and the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments in two cases, one from West Virginia, one from Idaho on Tuesday, about whether male athletes who want to be considered female can compete against actual females.
Yes.
Yeah. West Virginia Attorney General J.B. McCuskey was on Hannity last night on Fox, and he says that he's confident the court's going to rule in their favor.
We think West Virginia really won this day, and we're very, very bullish about success here in June or July.
And obviously there's going to be a massive nationwide but possibly targeted impact with this results. We just don't know what the Supreme Court's going to rule, although we have an indication that they seemed very skeptical of the challenge to the laws.
They did. So I think it's safe to not assume, but to think it's likely that they're going to uphold both the West Virginia and Idaho law.
Yeah. All right. Governor Mike Kehoe, just quick bullet points calling for big changes on how Missouri taxes us. Now, that's crucial that it's how, because we talk a lot about just cut taxes, and cut spending. In his State of the State address, he's calling for the elimination of the state's income tax, but he's calling for that to basically be stepped down. Now, a lot of people may not realize Missouri is already stepping down the income tax.
It's true. It was up over 6, right?
Right. And now it's at about
4.5
or something like that. It's about to go down to 4.5. I think it's 4.8, about to go to 4.5 or something like that. But this would step it down to 0. Now, at the same time, he's saying there are things that we're not taxing that could be taxed. For instance, your Netflix or your Disney Plus subscription or things like that. And so digital services that are not taxed now, he wants to apply basically the state sales tax that you would get. So if you buy something on Amazon, you get taxed for it. Well, that would also include Amazon Prime TV or whatever it is, or whatever movie you buy. So he's talking about broadening that base in exchange for eliminating the income tax. Now, the governor called on the proposal to be put on the statewide ballot, which would have to be done by Missouri law.
Yes.
Because
that is an added tax, as you were pointing
because
out,
it's an added tax or it's a tax increase. Now, the tax cuts would basically be a package, so we'll see what the lawmakers do about that. All right, St. Louis City's public school district loses full accreditation.
Oh, boy.
Yep. The State Board of Education downgraded the district status to provisional accreditation on Tuesday, and that means that the state could step in and assume more oversight. Now, among the reasons cited by at least one board member is the district's pattern of failing to comply with audit requirements. I think a lot of people may think that the accreditation only has to deal with the test scores and the proficiencies and things, but it's basically the entire district and the operations as well, and they're just failing in so many different areas.
Well, I don't know. It surprised me to hear that because my recollection was that they'd lost their accreditation, but they got it back.
Yeah.
So now, but they're losing.
Well, they got it
again.
back provisionally, then they got it back full, and now it's back to provisional.
Right.
So they're still technically accredited, just provisionally.
You already
meaning,
know you're on the hot seat. Why are you not? Why are you not doing the basics?
Because they're a mess, and if you want an argument for why we have to have robust school choice, that's it.
Yep.
Okay, President Bill Clinton does not show up for his deposition by the House Oversight Committee looking into the Jeffrey Epstein case. Just no-showed. He was issued a subpoena. So James Comer, who chairs that committee, says, you know what's next? Contempt of Congress.
As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Now, is Hillary Clinton supposed to testify today?
Yes.
Was that? I'll be shocked if she actually shows up.
Yeah, I don't know why she would if her husband didn't.
Right. I'll be shocked. So we'll see whether that happens. I think they're going to probably issue that contempt of Congress.
Oh, I think they will too. Yeah, and they'll remain a united front. I mean, they've stuck through it through thick and thin.
Okay, International Planned Parenthood feeling the pinch right now. Things are moving in the right direction on this.
Now that President Trump has cut $87 million in U.S. funding to the giant abortion business, it has begun to cut staff. IPPF reports that nearly 1,000 staffers around the world have been laid off, and nearly 1,400 facilities of various sizes have shut their doors. The cuts have had a major impact in the U.S., with Planned Parenthood closing scores of abortion clinics or putting aside plans to open new ones. Michael Harrington reporting.
All right, the Cardinals trade a future Hall of Famer third baseman Nolan Arenado is now an Arizona Diamondback.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was traded for pitcher Jack Martinez, and a lot of people are complaining like, he's an 8th-round pick. Why are you doing a one-for-one trade? Well, the Cardinals just got rid of $11 million of salary. That's a big part of it, I think.
Life's legal challenges deserve experienced representation. For over 15 years, Cole Combs Attorney at Law has been serving St. Charles and surrounding counties with comprehensive legal expertise. From tax preparation and estate planning to family law and criminal defense, Cole delivers personalized solutions for your unique situation. You have traffic tickets, need a business formation, real estate matters, one call will handle it all. Cole O. Combs Attorney at Law. Call 636-949-0010 extension 3 today or visit colecombs-law.com.
Simply Health with Dr. Brian Deloney.
Brain fog, low energy, and burnout aren't always just stress. Hormones, B vitamin pathways, and your mitochondria play a huge role. I'm Dr. Brian Deloney. Join me this week to learn what's really draining your energy.
Simply Health, Saturdays at noon on NewsTalkSTL. To find out more about Simply Health Integrated Medical, log on to simplyhealthintegrated.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Intervine, a great local company that has customers all across the country due to the quality of their products. Intervine has the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, and even batteries, including the new Monster 2000 Lumen waterproof lantern and the Sentinel 2000 self-defense flashlight. Our home and vehicles are full of great Intervine products, and right now you can shop their website and get 25% off your entire purchase just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. That's promo code Tony at Intervine.com.
There is no room in America for this kind of conduct.
All of a sudden, they care about free speech? No. They care about dependency and control.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
She will devour the real truth like it was a light snack.
The agenda that the far left is pushing is not working for us. And I'm talking about everybody who look like me. 1019 and 94.1.
Fight for our freedom.
This is News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. Amit Thomason. A troubling statement from Iran's chief jurist as anti-government protesters continue to die for the cause of freedom.
Iran's top judge has hinted at fast trials and executions for those detained in nationwide protests, even as activists say the death toll's risen to levels unseen in decades. Iran's judiciary chief made the comments about trials and executions in a video on Tuesday, despite a warning from President Donald Trump that he would take very strong action if executions take place.
Correspondent Charles De La Desma. President Trump says the ruinous inflation unleashed during the Biden years is being brought to heel.
In the coming weeks, I will be laying out even more plans to help bring back affordability. And again, remember, that's a fake word by Democrats. Prices were too high. They caused the high price. They never want to talk about affordability. They always go, this is an election about affordability. They say they caused it.
The president also says that anything less than having Greenland in the United States' hands is unacceptable to him. The puppies, and there were 6 of them, were at death's door when they were dropped at the firehouse in Gold Bar, Washington. Thought to have overdosed on drugs, possibly fentanyl. Narcan and oxygen quickly administered, and for one of the ailing pups, CPR.
One of our guys had seen it in a video on social media and knew how to do it, so he just gave him chest compressions while we waited for that Narcan to kick in to keep the dog breathing. That was probably the most critical one.
Sky Valley Fire Battalion Chief Brandon Vargas says the patients are out of danger now. They're recovering. As for the owners, well, looks like they have some explaining to do. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures are in the red. The Dow futures are down about 138 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert for Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Mike Ferguson.
What is that private pile? Sir, jelly donut, sir. A jelly donut?
Susie Moore.
Mama don't like tattletales.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, I got a clarification from our own Tim Jones.
Who dat?
Okay, so we were saying we think the current rate of income tax in Missouri is 4.8 going to 4.5. Okay, the current rate is 4.7. And it's going to 4.5 under current law, and then the proposal from the governor would take it, obviously, from 4.5 rather, to 0, assuming that everything is passed. So thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. I knew we were close, but those are the exact numbers.
Not only that, but thank you for listening, Tim.
That's right. All right. You should never assume that you know what the Supreme Court or any court's going to decide.
Correct.
Okay. While there are pundits out there all over who are very confident in their predictions all the time because they need clicks. And they need arguments and they need debates, is just not a good idea because it's a whole different way of thinking.
Yeah.
There's a reason that the courts are insulated from other stuff is for the most part.
Yeah.
Not going to say that they're that they're completely insulated,
No.
but they're supposed to be, at least to some degree. But we do have an indication of what's ahead when it comes to the matter of protecting girls and women from the impact of this fringe gender ideology. So I want to get into the court stuff here. But then I think it's also worth looking at this backlash that I think a lot of people were afraid to do 3 years ago is having a massive impact. Just throughout society and throughout culture is saying, we're done. We're not doing this. This is dangerous. And then legislatures have reacted with laws, and now it's up to the Supreme Court. So it's not just a legal matter. It's a matter of who we are in a big way.
It's a cultural, sociological, societal thing on top of the legal battle.
Yeah. Okay. So let me start with the Missouri ruling on this, because there was a Missouri ruling on Tuesday. Then there were arguments in the Supreme Court on Tuesday as well. So the ACLU and something called Lambda Legal Foundation, which is basically an LGBT focused law firm.
Yes.
I think they're based out of Kansas City, I think.
But
right. they're all over, but they're local. So they were challenging a couple of laws in Missouri. And one of those was the law that bans any sort of hormone treatment, chemical treatment, certainly surgical treatment that messes with kids' bodies before the age of 18.
Yes.
And so the law said, you're under 18. We don't care if your parents sign off on it. We don't care if a doctor says so. We don't care if a counselor. We don't care if the school says so. If you're under 18, you cannot be injected with anything. You cannot be given that pill. You certainly cannot go under the scalpel, period. End of story. When you're 18 and above, you do what you want to do.
Yep.
But you can't do it under 18. And they challenged that law. The Supreme Court of Missouri upheld that law. So that doesn't mean that they endorsed the ban. I don't know how the individual justices feel about it. They just ruled, as I understand it, Susie, that lawmakers have the right to enact that restriction and even enact that ban.
Yes, that is correct.
So it was about the law and about the authority of the legislature.
The law is constitutional.
Right. Not a matter of whether or not it's good or bad. It's bad. I'll just solve that problem for you. I'll end that. It's bad. But that's not what that's not what the Supreme Court said. They just said that the legislature can do it, which shows you how crucial your state legislative races are.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. I mean, this is something that has a significant impact. It has, it has big import.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're seeing what ends up happening when actually the process plays out.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about the Supreme Court now. They've got those two cases, West Virginia and Idaho. Mm-hmm. Whole country for certain is watching this. And at issue is the boys and girls sports.
Yes.
And so
never girls and boys sports.
Yeah, you don't really see that.
I mean, sort of
There may be somebody out there who's done it, but I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there have been girls that have played on boys' teams,
Yeah.
but the issue doesn't present itself because you don't have the same
And I don't
physiological difference issue.
See, and I don't know that I've ever heard too much complaint about the girl being on the boys' team. Now, girl in the locker room, I've heard of some issues on that.
Understandably.
But which is weird because I remember being a teenage boy. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
All right.
But yeah, it's just this other way, and that was actually referenced here.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of this complex legal and medical and cultural and ideological debate comes down to such simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
So Justice Samuel Alito questioning the ACLU's lawyer.
Right.
And I had her name, and
it's Harnett.
Something like that. Yeah, Hartnett, I think it was. And so she gets tripped up by maybe the most simple question. And this was not a hostile question.
No.
This was so foundational.
He was very careful how he presented it.
Here's the exchange.
Is it not necessary for there to be, for equal protection purposes, if that is challenged under the Equal Protection Clause, an understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition?
That seems like a simple question here.
Mm-hmm.
For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court, and we don't take issue with we're not disputing the definition here. What we're saying is that the way it applies in practice is to exclude birth-sex males categorically from women's teams, and that there's a subset of those birth-sex males where it doesn't make sense to do so according to the state's own interest.
Well, how can a court determine whether there's discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means for equal protection purposes?
I think here we just know we basically know that that they've identified pursuant to their own statute.
Not a great response.
No. She ran from reporters after.
Yeah, and I want to say something without getting too wonky here. She had a point that, when you're talking about important terms, some statutes normally will define the terms.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a point of saying, you have to look to how the statute is defining it to determine if there's an issue. But she couldn't even do that here and she didn't have an answer ready for that, which is one of the most basic questions. Right. How can you say there's an equal protection violation if you can't say what the two classes are?
Right. And I don't think Alito was doing a gotcha question.
No, he was doing a very foundational. He was leading her down the path. I'm going to say that. Rhetorically, he was leading her down the path, but not in a gotcha fashion, but in a very straightforward, logical progression fashion. Anybody with any legal training and without legal training could see where he was going with that.
Yeah, this is a version of Matt Walsh's What is a Woman?
Yeah.
Conceptually, that was the question. And so he was saying, okay, you want to argue that this male is a female, or you want to allow them to argue that, then we need to define what female is. That's essentially what it is. And she flat out said, well, I don't have a definition, but please rule in my favor.
Right. Yeah. And if you wanted to attack the statutes and say they were too vaguely worded because they didn't define those terms, that's a separate argument, but she didn't even go there. Yeah. So yeah, that really kind of laid bare the fact that they don't have a good answer for it because it's all circular. If you're saying it's excluding based on the basis of sex, but you can't define what sex is, you've got a big problem with your argument.
Okay, and so Ketanji Brown Jackson obviously wanted to get involved in this. This might be the highlight of your day. Have you ever had your coffee on this? Okay, so I'm gonna play the back and forth on this, and then we're gonna try to translate that into words in English.
You have the overarching classification, everybody has to be play on the team that is the same as their sex at birth. But then you have a gender identity definition that is operating within that, meaning a distinction, meaning that for cisgender girls.
It's the cisgender girls that have the biggest problem.
Which wasn't Love a Ginger or Hug a Ginger.
That was yesterday. That was yesterday.
So maybe that's what was top of mind.
Cisgengers. Is it just so we're talking about protecting the cisgengers here.
Mm-hmm. They can play consistent with their gender identity. For
I'm going to back that up just for a second.
Girls, they can't.
So just so I keep this in context with my snarkiness.
Cisgender girls, they can play consistent with their gender identity. For transgender girls, they can't.
So I think that, okay, so as to the part about your ability to pass over from boy to girl,
yes,
you can go from one way but not the other. I want to be clear that BPJ is not challenging that specific classification. I think that's important to start with. But I think, if anything, that's useful evidence as to the lack of a transgender-based discrimination, because if the legislature were just sort of unsettled by the notion of transgender athletes, I think the answer would have been to then bar them from passing over anyone consistent with their gender.
I appreciate that. I guess I was getting at the what I understood the Chief Justice to be trying to discuss, which was this notion that this is really just about the definition of we accept that you can separate boys and girls, and we are now looking at the definition of a girl, and we're saying only people who were girl assigned at birth qualify.
And
she if you try to pick out the most loosely coherent string of words, she just argued against herself.
Yeah, and you could tell the attorney was struggling to
not laugh,
not laugh or in any way be snarky in his response, because I think he recognized that she was really struggling with articulating her point. Yeah, that was it was something. I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, she was wanting a foundation of assuming that a boy who suddenly says, I'm a girl, that's accepted as a foundation. We're debating this as though he's actually a girl.
Yeah.
And the whole point is, no, he's not.
Well, crazy verbiage from Supreme Court justices. We're going to go from that to taxes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of interesting tax stuff to talk about, because the governor had his State of the State speech yesterday and laid out his plan, his bold plan for reducing the income tax in Missouri. We're going to talk about that coming up next at 7:20.
Transgender, and you can't make me go to the bathroom with the cisgenders.
Colombo and Company.
The new legislative session is underway, and Governor Kehoe just delivered his 2026 State of the State address. We'll get the details and the latest coming from Jeff City Wednesday from Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd.
Live and local weekdays at 2 on NewsTalkSTL.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel, and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on NewsTalkSTL 1019. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
People ask all the time, who the heck is low-cost airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
Hey guys, Billy Crow here from Jeffco Patriot Radio. Hope you had enough time to freshen up your coffee, because now we're back with Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, so basically the question the governor is asking Missourians. Now, on the Illinois side of listening area, J.B. Pritzker isn't asking questions. The Democrats are just basically saying, where can we pull more money out of you? I think if they were allowed by law to grab you by the ankles, turn you upside down, and shake you to get the last bit of change in your pocket, they would do it.
Probably.
Yeah. Because the public sector unions in Chicago just want more money. They've already burned through what they've got. But on the Missouri side, the governor is asking, are you willing to pay sales taxes on more things in order to not pay income taxes? So he's asking if we're willing to do a trade-off.
Can we dive into that just a little bit?
Yep.
Because I know the skeptics out there say, well, what's the difference? Why should it matter?
I think it's a fair question.
And I think it's a fair question. And I think the reason it should matter is if you kind of go look at the 30,000-foot view about taxation. What taxation does from a practical standpoint is it sort of tamps down on whatever it's, the more you tax something, the less you're going to get of it. The less you tax something, the more you're going to get of it, generally speaking.
Right.
I think people can understand that concept.
Yeah, and that's just an economic reality.
Yeah. So the idea is if you're taxing income, if you're taxing productivity, you're theoretically tamping down on wealth, income generation, and productivity. And
let me jump in real quick, because one of the incentives you're talking about here is I have actually known people who are on that border between this income level and the next income level, and they're calculating, is it worth it to do this and earn more money? If the taxes go up, I may actually come out behind.
Yeah, if you've ever done that, you're good. You're using basic math and rational behavior. That's rational behavior. You're calculating based on that. But if you don't want to be taxing and discouraging productivity and income generation, what's another thing you can tax? Consumption. Yeah. Because people have a choice over, in a lot of respects, what they choose to consume.
Now
that's
remember,
the whole appeal of that.
Yeah, that's right. Now remember, when you're taxing consumption, you're making it more expensive, and you're affecting that. For instance, on the national level, tariffs make goods more expensive. Eventually, that's going to get passed down to us, and that's why a lot of economists have a problem with that. One of the reasons we push back against these use taxes is because it makes cost of living go up.
Sure.
Now, what the governor is saying is that there are things that are not taxed now in a digital economy, in a digital environment, in a digital business
that you can choose or choose not to consume.
Right, and that's crucial here, that what he's proposing, and you can tell me what you think of it, 314-912-1019, or just send us a note on social media here, which, our service, I don't know this text right now, but for instance, he made the example that, if you subscribe, I don't personally subscribe to any TV streaming services.
I do.
There is so much out there you can get for free. I choose not to do it. So if you have a Netflix or a Hulu Plus or a Disney Plus or whatever, what he's saying is that is not taxed right now because it's not a tangible good and service. It's just a streaming entertainment thing.
It's a carve out.
Right. It's one of the things. Yeah. And so you would have to pay what I'm guessing would be the same sales tax as if you bought a physical thing. Well, I don't have to pay it if I don't subscribe.
Right.
So it doesn't have to increase my cost of living.
And if you're like on the margin in terms of what you have to spend, and you can make that decision for yourself whether it's worth it or not, as opposed to just having money taken out of your check.
So if this goes into place, probably what's going to happen is people are going to go, whoa, wait a minute. I need to go review how many of these things I'm subscribed to.
Yeah.
Because if I'm just paying, 2 or 3% or whatever the tax is on let's say Amazon Prime, okay, well, I love my Amazon Prime. I love getting the movie. I love this series, whatever it is.
Right.
But if I'm subscribed to that and Hulu Plus and Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and FanDuel and you go and you've got 10 or 12 or 13 of these, well, that could end up being, quite a bit of money, and you're going to start cutting back. So is it going to affect what consumers do? Absolutely, it will.
Yeah, and I just want to make clear, I am not a certified financial planner or financial advisor, but, you should kind of on a regular basis review what you are paying in subscriptions and stuff, because that's money you're basically throwing out the window if you're not using it.
Yeah, so there are some apps that help you do that now.
Yeah.
You can go look that. I've seen a couple. I'm not going to tell you which ones unless they pay me to.
Yeah.
But
speaking of money,
because I'm a capitalist. But the other is go through your bank statement.
Yeah.
Go on your the banking app and look on there and wait a minute, what was that $4 for?
Right.
That sort of thing.
$2.99 a month isn't that big a deal, but then when there's several different ones of them, it starts becoming a big deal.
$2.99 a month 10 times over is $30.
Yeah.
$30 over 12 times is $360.
Right.
$360 adds up.
Mike is mathing.
That's right. So let's talk about what the governor is saying, because this would have to go onto the ballot.
Okay.
So what happens now is the legislature can take his proposal and they can either take it lock, stock, and barrel and say, okay, hands off, we're putting it on the ballot. We're going to vote on it in August or November, and we'll see what happens. Or probably what they'll do is they'll want to come up with their own version of this. My guess is that it's probably going to be something kind of similar, but we'll see what the lawmakers do. And then we would have to vote on it if that can get through the legislature.
Yes.
So we're being asked to trade.
We're being asked to trade, and we're also being asked to participate in this process and think this through.
And the thing is that this is complicated. And it's supposed to be complicated.
Sure.
I mean, the concepts are simple. I want to pay less in taxes. I want to give government less money because I want it for myself.
Sure.
And I want it for my family. And I want it for my savings. I want it for my future. This proposal, while I'm not obviously going to be excited about taxes on something that are not taxed now, the complicated part is, but do I want the guaranteed elimination of the income tax that I'm paying? And that's very tempting to me.
Yeah.
Now, he said there are some things that are going to be exempted, so more carve-outs.
Right.
Because there was a concern that, medical is services. You go to your doctor, that's a service.
Yeah.
And they're carving that out. They're saying, no, we're not going to tax medical. So you're if you have a $50 visit to your doctor's office, it's still $50 because it's a service. It's a consultation.
Right.
And then they said they would exempt real estate services, which I don't. So you would still pay the taxes on buying the house.
Real estate services.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what that would be. But the real estate lobby is incredibly active in the Capitol.
Yeah.
They have more sway than they really should. So
I wonder if that's like broker fees or if it's like title fee. Yeah,
stuff
that
like
sort of
that.
thing. Okay.
So there are going to be a few carve-outs here and there. So the big picture is, will it be perfect? No. But the governor's talking about eliminating the collection of about $9 billion in income taxes and replacing most of that through sales taxes on things that are not taxed now. So he's not talking about, as I understand it, he's not talking about raising taxes on other things. He's talking about applying the current tax to
kind of
more
removing the
things.
loopholes that are there right now. So, I mean, I think people can do this with basic math like you just did. I mean, let's just, you take a very, very simple number. Let's say you make $10,000 a year. That's
sure.
That's
I
nothing,
understand,
right?
yeah.
But $10,000 a year, and your state income tax right now is 4.7%.
Yeah.
Right. So you're paying what, $400 a year?
$470, yeah.
Right, a year in state income tax. This would eventually, that's $470 back in your pocket, and you would get to decide, am I paying for Netflix and Hulu, or just Netflix, or none of them, or more of them, but I know I'm getting taxed on it.
Tubi's free, by the way.
You're getting to decide that yourself, and that money is not being withheld from your paycheck up front.
Yeah.
So, I mean, think about that.
Yeah. So it's tempting to me. Now, we'll see what the lawmakers do to it. Democrats have already, they're trying to bring back, frankly, what the Eigel campaign tried to hit Governor Keogh with during the primary, and they're calling him Tax Hike Mike because he's adding some of these taxes on there. And I think the Democrats, they announced they were opposed to the plan before they even heard what the plan was.
They haven't ever met a tax hike they don't like, so that's a little disingenuous.
It really is.
And
it really is.
If you want to see that, like Camellia was saying, Peterson's already introduced the bill in the House. It's HJR 165. You can look it up on the Missouri House website and read it yourself.
Yeah. So, but the bigger question here is, taxes are a necessary evil in some ways. I think we have way too much of them.
Yes.
And I think some taxes are absolutely immoral.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a question left open at some point. Could this also lead this year to some kind of property tax reform?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we do that, that means a lot of governments just simply have to cut spending and cut back their reach in what they do.
Slow your roll.
That is 100% one of the benefits of tax cuts. Not just that you keep more of your money.
Yeah, you rein the government in.
But you rein the government in.
You want that, folks. You want less government. Less.
Yes, precisely. So hopefully we'll talk to the governor soon on this and get his specifics. And then we're also going to keep getting updates from the legislature and the lawmakers each week to see what they're talking about. Because this is a monumental change if it actually goes onto the ballot.
Yep.
He was controversial and he was thought-provoking. At 7:35, let's talk about what we should remember about the Dilbert cartoonist, Scott Adams.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Mike, will you be my running mate?
On News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert for Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on News Talk STL.
Question: do you prefer cats or dogs? Before you answer, be aware your choice says something about you. According to the American Pets Association, 62% of U.S. households have a pet. Dogs win the popularity race. 39% of households have at least one dog, compared with 33% having a cat. And sometimes which you prefer, which you really have, depends on where you're living. You live in a small house, a condo, an area constantly being hit with rain and snow. You might prefer a cat. No walking, no standing about waiting for the dog to do its thing. The cat just goes off and finds the litter box, and you're done. Not quite done, because you do know you have to go clean the litter box from time to time. And, of course, if you take a dog out, yep, you got to do the pickup chore. You better anyway. The big difference between dogs and cats: if you leave the house with the dog for 30 minutes and you come back, oh my God, you've been gone a year, I can't wait to see you. You leave the house with a cat, you come in and they look at you like you were gone.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
The Vic Borselli Show.
NPR, guess what? Got defunded, and they're going to close down operations. If they're not going to get federal funding, well, then guess what? There are plenty of radio salespeople out there in the United States who can sell time, big time. You know why they don't sell hire a sales team? Because nobody will buy advertising because they suck so bad.
Oh my God!
You don't see people.
You're so correct. That's it right there.
Vic Borselli, live and local weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new NewsTalkSTL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
Hey, this is Todd Showalter. Join me for the Right Mind Show on Saturday at 5 as I try to put some fun back into this wacky radio station. You know, and speaking of wacky, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right. Okay. Politics, culture, race, faith, corporate America.
Yep.
Those are all subjects that Scott Adams found himself in the middle of.
It's true.
Yeah. He went from entertaining, just strictly entertaining with his Dilbert cartoon, which I loved.
Yep.
I had one of those Dilbert, calendar tearaway calendars back in the day.
Right.
Just loved the Dilbert cartoon. Then he went on to be a provocateur, which he said he was doing on purpose. And then he went on to be a lightning rod on social media, and he passed away, we found out yesterday, due to prostate cancer. And when you look at the media coverage, there's a big difference between the more right-leaning coverage and then the more mainstream and the left-leaning coverage. Because the left coverage will go, I saw words like disgraced,
in the headline.
That sort of thing. And so let's talk about all of it. Because Scott Adams, I didn't really follow him super close on social media just because there's so many people. But boy, did he generate a lot of arguments and debates. And I think he tried to do it in an intellectual way. And whether or not that's possible on social media overall remains to be seen. We're now joined by Jennifer Oliver O'Connell from RedState.
Yes.
And Jennifer, I wanted to talk to you on this because, obviously you're tuned in to pop culture as it, meshes into overall culture, really well. So Scott Adams he went to become a pretty controversial guy. He said some stuff about race that, ended up ending his cartooning career for the most part. And how much of that should be part of whatever his legacy is going to be in the coming months and years?
Good morning, Mike and Susie. Thanks for having me. It really, I'll pose it this way. When Woody Allen or Roman Polanski dies, how much of their ick, the pedophilia and all of that stuff, how much are they going to write about that in their obituaries?
Well, that's different because they're on the left.
Exactly. Yeah. And that it's like, to me, a life is a life. And I'm not saying I agree with all of the wrong stuff or things that people do, but that's sadly a part of being human, is that we screw up, we make mistakes, or we just do things that people do not agree with. But to equate an entire career to that one incident and then make that the focal point and forget everything else, that's ridiculous. Because this Scott Adams, he's up there with Charles Schultz. Gary Larson is in there too, but he wasn't quite the most inconsequential figure as Schultz and Adams are. He he basically, every area of culture, every area in the world, Dilbert was translated into probably, the Iranian language because everybody read it. So you cannot just reduce someone to one comment they made in 2023 that got their cartoon canceled.
And yet we're seeing that seems to be what a lot of the reaction is, which is it is interesting. And, you mentioned Woody Allen and Roman Polanski. I mean, they're accused of criminal activity. This was somebody expressing a controversial opinion that, Jennifer, you wrote a beautiful, beautiful article on Scott Adams yesterday, kind of collecting some of the reaction to it. And you pointed out, whether you agree with it or not, I mean, you've heard other people say that some of the things that he said, and it didn't for you sour you on him and what he was contributing to the conversation.
It did not. It did not, because these are conversations, that Black people have among themselves, really, as far as I'm concerned, and they don't necessarily want to tell you about it. But people in my family, we've all said, no, we're not going to live in that neighborhood. No, we're not going to support that Black cause because of exactly what he was saying, that you sell yourself short. You're your own worst enemy. Why would I co-sign that? Why would I support that? And and he said on the tape when he was doing the podcast that I know I'm going to be called a racist. I know you're going to cancel me for it. Oh well. But here, this is, and he came from it. He had no skin in the game. He had no emotional weight to it. He came from it from an intellectual point of view, from his own principles of, here's where you focus your energy and you put yourself into one basket. You invest in order to get something back. And sadly, and he's correct, we try to keep investing in these communities that won't even help themselves. Why do we keep doing that?
We're visiting with Jennifer Oliver O'Connell from RedState. Okay, so what was different about Scott Adams? And we're talking about, obviously, at this point, whatever a legacy is going to be. Some people have a legacy for a short term in the news of their death. Some people, it goes on for a long time. There's no shortage of people with opinions on the internet and podcast by any stretch. But what was it that made him such a lightning rod, not just between left and right, but sometimes amongst those on the right?
Yeah, he basically, one of our commenters on RedState put it very succinctly, that he didn't have any hard line, this is what I believe and I'm never going to change. He would listen, he would study it and, compare things according to whatever his life principles are, and he would make an assessment, but then he wasn't saying you must believe what I believe. He would say, try it out in your life and see what happens, or read this and let me know what you think about it and how that turns out. He himself, if he was challenged, and he was willing, that's another thing, he was willing to be challenged. If he was challenged, he'd go do his research. I mean, what happened with COVID? And he said it. He took, he wasn't a hard line, you must take the vaccine. He said, I took the vaccine because I wanted to go on my honeymoon in Bora Bora. That's the only reason why I did it. I wanted to travel. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done it again. And that's the thing. He if you gave him the right inputs and the right information and it matched up to research and to values, he could easily change his mind. And he did in that regard. He regretted that and that the anti-vaxxers were right, and here's how I proved it, or how I came up to this supposition. So he'll be remembered for someone who probably was one of the last critical thinkers that we have in this space, because he actually did critically parse out things.
Jennifer, that's such a key point, because that is so rare anymore, to have someone who's willing to hear different information, opposing viewpoints, and consider them, and sometimes change his position based on that. You just don't see that very much anymore. But one of the other things that you pointed out in your article is that, he was a mentor for a lot of people. He helped platform other people. He shared their work, including yours. Tell us a little bit more about, how he approached things from a mentor and lifting others up standpoint.
He did not begin from a lens of faith, and so his goal in life was, how do I benefit the world? How do I make life better? And one of the ways he thought he could benefit the world was helping people who he thought their gifts and their talents and their cause was worthy. King Randall, he runs a school called X School for Boys, and I believe Macon, but I know it's Georgia at least. And where he's teaching young black boys basically reading, writing, and arithmetic, but also just how to be strong men. And so Scott Adams had him on a show and probably contributed finances to his school. You know, and this is a guy on X who gets maligned. Speaking of, certain communities, gets maligned by the left-wing black community. And Scott Adams said, let's give him a platform. Let's prop him up. Let other people know about him. Greg Gutfeld, he said it on his show last night, on his Gutfeld show last night. I would not have the career that I had without Scott Adams. Scott Adams was a mentor. Scott Adams showed me some pathways and opened some doors. And the fact that he shared a couple of my RedState articles. I'd look and I'd think, oh my God, Scott Adams shared. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And, I don't have much of a reach on X. Thank you, Elon Musk, but he did. And so the fact that he was willing to promote other people's ideas is huge as well, because I'm sorry, on the right, that's what's really awful. They share all the garbage. They don't share good ideas from someone who may not be, this great platform or influencer who can do something for them. They don't bother.
Okay,
so Scott Adams did.
We've just got a minute or so left, Jennifer, so I'm going to shortchange a little bit on the time here. But at the very end, the conversation went to faith. And he had a very kind of open internal struggle, when it comes to what he thought about faith, kind of like Jordan Peterson's been doing over the years here as well. But what do you make at the very end? He says, basically I've converted, kind of at the end of his life here. What kind of impact or what kind of influence do you think that could have on other people asking questions about personal faith and eternity and things like that?
I believe it will cause them to question, again, people who are stalwart, atheists or stalwart the fact that, and he's gotten detractors obviously, but the fact that he said, I've looked at both sides and decided, you know what, this is where the value added in, and that's how intellectuals think. People want to go from the emotional end or, oh, this is last minute. No, he was an intellectual. He reasoned things out. And again, he had seen the other side. So it's like, why not take this leap? And really, that's what faith is. It's ultimately a leap. You fall, you surrender, you let go. And he let go. And I think that's going to impact other intellectuals, like you said, Jordan Peterson and other people who come at everything with their intellect and with their mental faculties, but don't consider and don't open to the rest.
All right. And we've already tagged you on our social media, Jennifer, but go ahead and get people out. Obviously, you can find your work at RedState. Just look you up. But what about people want to follow your work directly, web, social media, anything like that?
AsTheGirlTurns.com and AsTheGirlTurns on every social media. Look that up and you'll find me.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Jerome already alluded to this, but it's bump day. Bump day. Which means that you need to get in your requests for Flashback Friday. Send them to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL so we can hear them on Friday. It's Wednesday. Do you know what you're doing for lunch? If you don't, I have a good suggestion for you. It's located in the heart of West County. Been there for over 20 years. It's Harpo's Chesterfield. That's the place you want to go if you just want to hang out with your friends, catch up, maybe after the holidays, kind of do a little, reconnoitering and figure out what everybody's been up to. If you want to watch your favorite sports events, you can go there. They've got fun, friendly staff. They've got great food and great drinks. They've got great specials. If you want to know what their specials are, you can check that out online. You can just go to harposstl.com. You know what? Their happy hours, Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. They've got great drink specials. They've got local team specials. So if you want to watch the, SLU basketball or the Blues, Cardinals, Mizzou Tigers play, you can enjoy $16 domestic buckets during the game. That's a pretty good deal. Every day they've got different food specials. Wednesdays, it's a 10-ounce strip steak served with your choice of 2 sides for $15. That's a pretty good deal. Bottom line is this. If you want to have fun, if you want to be around fun, energetic people. If you want to relax with your friends and enjoy good food and good drinks, you need to check out Harpo's. If you want to see what events they've got going on, you can check out their Facebook page or their Instagram, or just go to harposstl.com.
Hey, folks, Jamie Allman here for Newstedter's Fine Jewelry right there at Doherty Ferry and Big Bend. WowDiamonds.com. It's Wow Diamonds for a reason. These are beautiful lab-grown diamonds. They are gorgeous. They will blind you when you walk in and see them, but that's a good thing. Great engagement sets, wedding sets, all these beautiful God-created gems, sapphires, rubies, you name it, garnets, and also all the gold you need, and the famous Bull of a Watch, WowDiamonds.com.
There's something magical about walking into your backyard and knowing your family is completely safe and secure. Hi, I'm Sean Long, owner of STL Fence Works. That's the feeling my team and I have been creating for metro area families for more than 50 years. Whether you're adding your first fence or finally creating the outdoor sanctuary you've always wanted, we offer premium vinyl and stunning ornamental options, all designed around your family's specific needs and lifestyle. While other companies struggle with supply delays and rising costs, we've always proudly used all American-made materials, which means better pricing and faster installation for you. Our experienced craftsmen exemplify our motto, your satisfaction is our passion. From Warrenton to Wildwood, your neighbors trust us because we live here too. And we care about your project as much as you do. Right now is the golden time to build with flexible financing options and a commitment to completing your fence on time and on budget. Visit stlfenceworks.com.
I'm Congressman Bob Onder, and you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the city may have called off the search for the St. Louis monkeys, but we're not going to let it rest.
No.
Those monkeys are still out there. They're rogue monkeys. We're still Team Monkey. We want to make sure they're okay. So they may give up, but we're not giving up.
Never.
Matter of fact, we've got a reporter standing by that we're going to give you an update here in just a couple of minutes.
Oh, that's important.
Just a minute or so. We really do. 7:51 right now, but as always, we hope you are checking out the one-stop shop for conservative news and opinion. That would be RedState. Susie, what should we start off reading on RedState today?
This is the RedState Rundown.
Hot off the presses, I want to recommend a VIP article from our friend Terry Christoph. It's titled, President Trump Strikes Exact Right Tone, Reveals What He Would Say to Renee Nicole Good's Father. He was asked about that by Tony DeCopel when he was interviewed last night for CBS. It was actually a really interesting exchange, and I agree with Terry that he did strike the right tone there. It's worth checking out, so check that article out. Also, we've got from Bob Hogue. This was big news yesterday that kind of slid under the radar because of everything else going on. Net migration to the U.S. hits a milestone number not seen in over 50 years. Last year, there were more people that left the U.S. than came into the U.S.
That's significant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
big.
That's massive.
That is massive.
See, and then once you get to that level at that point, then it's easier to reset what you want immigration policy to actually be because you're back in control of it.
Correct. Big deal. Check it out. Last but not least, we've got an article from Sister Tolja titled, More Please, Barry Weiss Effect Seen in Key Change to CBS News Piece on Minneapolis ICE Incident. Also talking about CBS. But their initial framing of it was the murder of Renee Nicole Good, and they have now changed it to the killing of Renee Nicole Good. Now, that has meaning. That has legal meaning. That's important.
Right.
So,
well, it's also the framework, as well, because the reality is that for the most part, journalists have a lot of immunity. Media has a lot of immunity. We, and I'm including us here, we have a lot of immunity for what we say if we're commenting or reporting or doing opinion and that sort of thing. We don't have complete immunity. We can still cross a line without a doubt. Without question. But for instance, when the media says the murder of Nicole Good, you're right, that has meaning, not even just from a legal perspective, but it frames what people are consuming, and it assumes the criminality of what the law enforcement officer did when that car was charged at him.
Right.
And so what we're seeing with Barry Weiss and CBS News is going to be fascinating to see, because there is a revolt in the newsrooms around CBS, particularly in New York City and Washington, D.C., against Barry Weiss. But what she's doing is saying you have to go back to the basic journalism principles that we're all taught in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of room for opinionating.
Yeah.
But if you're doing basic journalism, you got to actually do the basics.
And that's what's being revolted against on there. Now, I'm not going to say Barry Weiss is going to get everything correct.
No.
But it was a stunning decision when CBS decided to put her in charge of the news at CBS, because CBS, arguably among the broadcast networks, was the single most biased and ridiculous outlet out there. So they're going to go through some massive growing pains, and we'll see whether they can redeem themselves. I don't know.
We'll see. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic for CBS.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. I'm not sold. I'm not on board, but I'm open and willing to see what happens.
And I want to be clear about something. I want them to be in that space. I want there to be that sort of center-left voice out there and framing of things, recognizing that nothing is truly objective.
Well, sure.
But there needs to be that balance there. It needs to be center-left, not fringe left, which you see on MSNBC and MS Now.
But we can do all of that by simply saying the facts are the facts.
Yes.
And that's what the mainstream media gets away from so much, is they tell you the facts are not the facts.
Yep.
Okay, but real quick here. The fact is we've got some monkeys still on the loose in St. Louis, as far as we know. Maybe they returned home and they're sitting in the Chase Lounge right now. I don't know.
Maybe.
But we don't know. The city has said we're not looking for them anymore. But if you see them, let us know. Call health department on there. So we're not giving up in News Talk STL. You probably heard this on Columbo and Company. He's now got the official Monkey Watch news reports going on. And we've got Tony standing by right now because we're not letting this go. And we are on the hunt looking for the monkey. So, Tony, you're out. And what are you seeing? My understanding is you had some clues out there.
So, yeah, Mike, the health department may have stopped looking for these monkeys, but I, for one, haven't. We want to bring some peace of mind and closure to this community. So we're out here. I will say that we had some excitement a few minutes ago when I heard some movement behind a group of bushes. However, that turned out to just be a feral cat with a very bad attitude. Luckily, I was able to get away from that situation with just a few cuts and scratches. However, I do think I need to find a bottle of hydrogen peroxide. So I'm going to wrap it up for now, but we will get you another report as soon as I'm able to get back out here in the field. So, yeah, that's all. Back to you guys in the studio.
People don't understand how dangerous field reporting can be.
Be careful out there, Tony, man.
Oh,
That's dangerous. You can have a cat scratch fever.
So here's what's going to happen is that, after we're done with the show today, I'm going to volunteer some of my time, and I'm going to go out on the search for the monkeys later on today. I will have some update. I'll have an update, at least one update, maybe two today for Tony on his show today.
That's very kind of you to do.
Well, we care. I mean, we care. That's really what it comes down to.
So I've got competition now, it sounds like.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to spot them, and you want a pet.
If they're not friendly, why are they friend-shaped?
Yeah,
why friend shape?
Why do they look so
I
friendly?
saw it on the reels. That's very cute, and
They're
they love
so
it.
sweet. All they want is some bananas.
And to chomp your nose off.
Oh.
Okay, but Monkey Watch news coverage continues on News Talk STL throughout the day. So I'm gonna, Tony and I are working out our assignments. So I'm gonna be going all over the metro looking for these critters. We're not going to rest. The city may give up. They threw in the towel. We did not. That's all I'm saying.
Ever feel like just a number in a waiting room? Hi, I'm Shannon Tribune, Director of Operations with Body of Health Direct Primary Care. Navigating the medical system can be a maze of stress. I'm your personal guide at Body of Health. I handle the messy parts of medical care, the logistics and complex coordination both in and outside our walls, so you and Dr. Tobler, that's my dad, can focus on what matters most, your health. At Body of Health, you're not just a patient, you're part of the family, because that's healthcare the way it ought to be. To learn more, schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com.
This holiday season, bring the taste of Italy into your home. At Di Gregorio's, we've been helping St. Louis families celebrate around the table for over 50 years. From imported wines, olive oils, and cheeses to gourmet pastas, sauces, and specialty holiday favorites like panettone and torrone. Our Italian gift baskets make the season easy and unforgettable. You'll find everything you need to make the holidays special. Experience a little bit of Italy right here in St. Louis. Di Gregorio's Italian Market. Visit us at digregoriofoods.com.
SR1 Sundays.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Kaiser. Be sure and check out my show, Straight Lines, this and every Sunday at 8 p.m., right after Stand and Fight, part of SR1 Sundays. Let's meet right here and let's peel back some layers of this crazy world, and you might be surprised at what we find. Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser on SR1 Sundays at 8 p.m., right here on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kaiser on News Talk STL.
When it's important to you,
what St. Louis is talking about,
it's on News Talk STL.
The Trump administration is celebrating an economic boost and crediting international investments in the U.S.
We're the hottest country anywhere in the world.
A lot of the effects are not going to be seen until 2026.
News, analysis, opinion.
We're going to have a gigantic refund year. I think households could see $1,000, $2,000 refunds.
1019 and 94.1.
My talk station.
News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019 94.1 and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. A troubling statement from Iran's chief jurist as anti-government protesters continue to die for the cause of freedom.
Iran's top judge has hinted at fast trials and executions for those detained in nationwide protests, even as activists say the death toll's risen to levels unseen in decades. Iran's judiciary chief made the comments about trials and executions in a video on Tuesday, despite a warning from President Donald Trump that he would take very strong action if executions take place.
Correspondent Charles Deladesma. President Trump says the ruinous inflation unleashed during the Biden years is being brought to heel.
In the coming weeks, I will be laying out even more plans to help bring back affordability. And again, remember, that's a fake word by Democrats. Prices were too high. They caused the high price. They never want to talk about affordability. They always go, this is an election about affordability. They say they caused it.
The president also says that anything less than having Greenland in the United States' hands is unacceptable to him. The puppies, and there were 6 of them, were at death's door when they were dropped at the firehouse in Gold Bar, Washington. Thought to have overdosed on drugs, possibly fentanyl. Narcan and oxygen quickly administered, and for one of the ailing pups, CPR.
One of our guys had seen it in a video on social media and knew how to do it, so he just gave him chest compressions while we waited for that Narcan to kick in to keep the dog breathing. It was probably the most critical one.
Sky Valley Fire Battalion Chief Brandon Vargas says the patients are out of danger now. They're recovering. As for the owners, well, looks like they have some explaining to do. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures are in the red. The Dow futures are down about 138 points. More on these stories, townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gaudens and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of fresh baked cookies? At Trolley Stop Bakery in Chesterfield's Forum Shopping Center, our co-op of talented bakers has been perfecting that homemade magic for 4 decades. From the gooeyest cookies in town to custom pies, cobblers, and cakes, everything's made from scratch, just like Mom and Grandma's recipes. Need that perfect corporate gift? We ship our famous cookies nationwide. The Trolley Stop Bakery, 67 Forum Shopping Center, or TrolleyStopBakery.com. Because some traditions are too sweet not to share.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
Mike Ferguson.
Shut this sucker down.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
You're not supposed to lie, but you're definitely not supposed to lie when you're under oath.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, will the Supreme Court announce its decision on tariffs today?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a possibility. We don't know, but whatever that decision is, it's going to be a big deal because it's truly going to set. It's not about the tariffs. This is what so many people forget. This is not necessarily about the tariffs. This is going to be about the power of the presidency, and that all has to do with what government's going to be able to do when it comes to affecting our cost of living.
Yes, and the way that they rule on this is going to really cause a muck if it goes the wrong direction.
Well, and what's the wrong direction? I know what I think. All right, we are now joined by Ross Marchand from our friends at the Taxpayer Protection Alliance. And Ross, we don't know if this ruling is coming today or not. I mean, it may come in the next hour or two. It may come down the road. We don't know. But this is a big deal. And as you know, Jerome was kind of alluding right there, is that there's a lot of disagreement on it. I am a free market guy. I don't like the tariffs. The court decision itself is not necessarily about whether tariffs are good or bad or whether they should be low or high. It really has to do with more of the arbitrary implementation of them. From NTU's perspective, what do we want to see? What do you want to see from the Supreme Court?
Well, look, the most important thing to keep in mind right off the bat, tariffs are taxes.
Yes.
And that is a big part of what the Supreme Court is looking into. And look, we were expecting a decision last week, and here we are today, maybe expecting a decision again. But what the Supreme Court is looking at, among other things, is, look, if tariffs are taxes, which they definitely are, is the president taking this power away from Congress? Congress is supposed to be the ones who are imposing taxes. So this is a very important question, and we may get the answer to this question today.
Why does it matter? Because somebody may say, okay, yeah, that's a civics lesson, and maybe technically that's the way it's supposed to be. But everybody, a lot of the Republicans are okay with him unilaterally making a declaration and imposing a tariff, imposing a tax. Why does that matter so much? And what is it from the consumer, from our perspective? What's the right policy that we should be trying to get to?
Well, first of all, the president is not the king. And when you give one person such tremendous power to introduce and increase taxes, that could easily be abused. And I always say, look, to people on the right who say, look, President Trump can be trusted. He has a great track record. He does in many ways have a great track record, but you don't want a Democrat coming in after Trump and saying, okay, I'm going to raise my own taxes because the Supreme Court found that I have this power. And look, the obvious point, too, is that because tariffs are taxes and they've gone way up, customers are absolutely paying the price. I mean, tariffs used to be on average around 2%. Now they're in the 15 to 20% range. Who is paying? Customers across the country. We see goods are very, very expensive, and they are far higher priced than they need to be.
Well, and also part of what the president's using taxes for is to keep certain things out in order to, and it's protectionism. Saying we're going to keep that out in order to, protect the businesses here. So even if there's not a tariff, the limitation of supply raises the limitation of supply raises the cost because the demand doesn't change. So the protectionism has a cost as well because some things are just now too expensive to bring in. And that means we don't have access to it and it's less competition for consumers' dollars.
Exactly. And I think the reason why President Trump's message resonated so much on the campaign trail and now that he's in office is he said, look, there is an affordability crisis that is just plaguing the country. And it's still a problem. I mean, there has been some progress for sure, but inflation, I mean, we're having a hard time getting it below 3%. And when you limit availability and when you raise prices, you raise taxes on customers, I mean, what do you think is going to happen to the price of goods over time? So, we need greater affordability of goods is what millions of Americans are concerned about. How are they going to provide for themselves and their families? And you got to take tariffs off the table.
All right. So maybe today we'll know the answer to that. Maybe it'll be next week. Maybe, who knows, next month. We don't know. But it could come anytime. We're visiting with Ross Marchand from our friends at Taxpayer Protection, our friends from Taxpayer Protection Alliance. Okay, so I noticed that you all were writing on this, and you've done this a lot over the years. 18, 19 states, including Missouri, new minimum wage for 2026. And, of course, if you look at mainstream media, a whole bunch of people just got a raise. It's nothing but a good thing because people are making more money, and they argue they're making more money, therefore it's good for the economy. You're arguing things may not work out the way that lawmakers were hoping it would because there are the unintended consequences. What do we need to watch for around the country, including here in Missouri?
And these numbers are hard to believe. By the time 2026 is done, it's going to be 22 states, but 66 localities as well. So in total, you're going to have 88 minimum wage increases. You have Missouri at the $15 mark now, and you have New York at 17, Washington State even a little bit over 17. And what we see time and time again is whenever the minimum wage goes up or stays the same at a very high rate, jobs go by the wayside, jobs get cut, and wages actually get cut as well. It's just a huge, again, it's a tax on businesses. They can't afford these minimum wage increases.
Yeah, and the emotional argument for that is really, really easy to make. So when we're having these discussions, it seems like the economics argument of it, the real economics of it, argument of it, it just seems so cold-hearted, and it's a hard sell to some people. What's the best way of saying, no, take a look at it from this perspective? Because, like you said, I mean, it's pretty clear what happens when you raise the minimum wage around the country is that the people who are on the lower end of the income or the people just getting started trying to build that career, they're the ones who end up getting kind of slapped over this.
Yeah, you have to point out the real minimum wage is zero and that these jobs will be cut and opportunities will be eliminated for millions of Americans. And this is not just my opinion. Study after study has shown this, and increase after increase has resulted in jobs going away. So if you want to increase opportunities and you want to give Americans a chance to provide for themselves and their families, again, kind of similar to how we talked about the tariffs issue, you need to axe these laws that make absolutely no sense and make life harder for people.
Okay, there's no question the economy is changing. Obviously, digital, AI, automated, and it's just changing how things are doing. When we look at taxes, when we look at, economy and the government role, what are some of the concepts that we should insist government put into place or follow in order to maximize all the opportunities we have? Because change is really scary.
Yeah, no, change is absolutely scary. And something that's changing all the time is the national debt. It's only going in one direction. We reached the $38 trillion mark, and it's only going up from there. And unless we deal with that national debt, taxes will keep going up as well, and inflation will keep going up, and mortgage rates will keep going up as well. So the priority number one, especially at the federal level, is they have to get that debt under control, and that's a big part of what TPA focuses on.
Okay, can that be done without raising taxes? Is there a way to get a handle on that without socking it to us right now?
Absolutely, but the national debt cannot meaningfully be reduced unless you target the really big programs. You need to target the big healthcare entitlement programs. Now, are we going to drastically cut benefits? No, we don't need to do that. But what we do need is we need smart ways of financing these programs and smart ways of reimbursing these services provided by Medicare and Medicaid, and putting more choice and competition into these programs, and also putting Social Security on a more sustainable path forward too. But unless you deal with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and defense, you're not going to make a big dent in the national debt.
All right, where that voice you're hearing right now is Ross Marchand from Taxpayer Protection Alliance. Just got a couple minutes left here, Ross. Some interesting bills. It's got some bipartisan support, and frankly, some folks like on the far left and some folks who are ostensibly on the right, like Josh Hawley, they are talking about banning stock trading for members of Congress. What's your all's take on this one? Because this is one that we're hearing a lot about from some of our politicians here in the metro area.
Yeah, well, the current proposal that everyone is talking about does not ban actual stock holding. What it would do is it would ban members from buying stocks and their families from buying new stocks. But we would argue that doesn't go far enough, because as long as you leave current holdings of stocks untouched, I think that's just kind of keeping the status quo going. And vast majority of Americans, we're talking over 80% of people surveyed, have a real problem with their representatives holding stocks, because and they correctly perceive it's an unfair advantage over everyday working Americans. So we would call for a broad-based ban on stock ownership in Congress.
Okay, so for members of Congress, I mean, we know about the horror stories of people serving for 50, 60, 70 years at times, or 40 or 30 years. But some are in and out. I mean, would they not have an ability to save or invest for their own future if this were to happen? Because I could see somebody arguing, wait a minute, just because I'm serving in the legislature doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to invest in something. What would be the answer to that pushback?
Yeah, so something like blind trust is one thing, and we already have historically expected that from elected officials. But another thing entirely is you have elected officials who are actively picking stocks, maybe or maybe not, after hearing of some sort of inside scoop. So that is something that really should not be tolerated. But I mean, once people get into office and having a blind trust that's outside of their control, I mean, that could be acceptable. But what's not acceptable is the status quo, which absolutely entrenches power and makes the rich richer and makes the powerful more powerful.
Yeah, blind trust makes a lot of sense to me. It seems like that would be an area that you could find in the middle if the blind part of the blind trust is actually enforced and they truly don't know what their what stocks they have and don't have and what's being sold and what's being bought by their advisor. If it can truly enforce that blind trust part of it, and there's some mechanism for that, that seems like that might be a reasonable place to have a discussion.
Exactly right, but what's currently being discussed absolutely does not go far enough.
Yep. All right. So we've already tagged you on our social media, Ross, and into you. But people want to follow the work you do. I was looking on there last night. A whole bunch of comments on a whole lot of different issues. Interesting stuff to think about. What's the way to find that and engage if they want to?
Please visit our website at protectingtaxpayers.org, and you'll see all the great work that we do and all the issues we're working on.
All right, a comment we just got on social media says the insider trading BS has to stop, and that's really what we're talking about.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks a lot, Ross.
All right, thank you.
Okay, go to NewsTalkSTL right now.
Right now?
Please. Join the Freedom 13 and News Talk STL. We are honoring our heroes. So here's what's going on. It's called the Salute Our Troops Gala Night. It takes place on February 27th, which is a Friday. It's going to happen at the Foundry Arts Center in St. Charles that evening. Freedom 13, as you know, was created to not only remember and honor Jared Schmitz, but also his 12 fellow American heroes. And also, they are honoring every American hero that made the ultimate sacrifice. So their mission's simple: help our veterans and our police officers and their families. So go to newstalkstl.com for all of the details on the Salute Our Troops Gala Night, and you can get your tickets right there at newstalkstl.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
On News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again. because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common-sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on NewsTalkSTL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Brought to you by Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, and Heroes Care.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
And then the media.
1019 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, the destructive gender ideology was up in two important courtrooms. And there was a decision handed down in one, and the proponents of the left-wing ideology lost in one court. What's going to happen in the most important court of the country? We don't know yet. But the arguments were interesting yesterday. And the governor makes the challenge. Let Missourians decide if we want to eliminate the income tax.
Well, that should be a no-brainer.
Well, it's complicated. You know, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So here's what happened is we spoke with our friend Camellia Peterson from Americans for Prosperity a couple hours ago. She filled in a lot of blanks and a lot of interesting information on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to let you hear that at 8:35. We're just going to do that. And a future Hall of Famer, to my chagrin, my major chagrin, is not going to finish his career as a Cardinal.
Yeah, I can see you choking back your tears.
I'm bummed. This sucks. This sucks. All right, it is 8:21. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump today.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks.
The Morning News Dump.
Okay, Missouri's Supreme Court upholds a law that protects minors from gender mutilation. That's the bottom line on this. They upheld the law. In a unanimous decision, the court rejected a challenge to the law that bans minors from receiving cross-sex hormones, so chemical mutilation, puberty blockers, another version of chemical mutilation, and genital mutilation surgeries. If you are under 18, you cannot have that done to you in this state, regardless of who else signs off on it.
It's really weird that they claim that all of this stuff was not, specifically the surgeries were not happening, and we still have to block them from being able to do it. It's interesting how that works.
Well, and also, I'm just going to call out, not that they care, but pretty much all of the mainstream media in town here, when they say, you know, what they're saying is the court upheld the ban on gender-affirming care. That is one of the absolute most dishonest phrases you're ever going to hear. Giving a boy puberty blockers, or giving a girl puberty blockers, or giving them hormones, or giving an adult that, or certainly cutting off healthy body parts, that is the opposite of gender affirming. That is gender denying.
Yes.
But they're framing it in an incredibly dishonest way, and most media has just run with it, which is one of the reasons that I do not frame this as transgenders. Gender dysphoric, mental illness, and in some cases just plain old pervert.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just that. Other times you've got a tragic, mental illness situation on there as well. But we have to be honest about the language, and we need to start rejecting and pushing back against that language, because that really is powerful. So the court also upheld the ban on Medicaid paying for any of these procedures or medications for anybody.
Good.
So what that means is if you're an adult, they ruled this is not discriminatory, because if you're an adult and you could get this done voluntarily, then you can still do it. You just can't demand taxpayers pay for it.
Which is fine. If you're a legal consenting adult and you want to pay for your own cosmetics alterations to your body, then I say
that's on you.
That's on you, but we should not be subsidizing or having our taxes applied to that.
Right. And so the court said, no, the legislature has the right to not pay for that. And so, the plaintiffs in the case, which was the ACLU, of course, and Lambda Legal, they say they're going to try to find a way to appeal. But this is the state Supreme Court. I don't know where they're going with this. I mean, Supreme Court's already ruled on similar things, so this may be the final word, but I'm sure there'll be more lawsuits filed on it. Okay, the U.S. Supreme Court hearing arguments in 2 cases from West Virginia and Idaho on Tuesday that dealt with the same thing. Whether boys who pretend to be girls or think they're girls or claim to be girls can compete against actual, real females. And so Idaho and West Virginia, like Missouri, have laws that say you cannot do that. Mm-hmm. So West Virginia Attorney General, his name is J.B. McCuskey, was on Hannity last night on Fox saying he's confident the court's going to rule in their favor.
We think West Virginia really won this day, and we're very, very bullish about success here in June or July.
And we're, like he said, it's going to be a while before we get some sort of ruling on this, but essentially what was at stake here, and the proponents of allowing boys to enter girls' sports, they're asking the court and they're asking society and they're asking lawmakers to accept something that is not real as reality. And they kept wanting to argue that foundation, and the justices said, wait, define what female is, define what woman is, define what a girl is. And they were chasing their tails on that. They couldn't answer such a simple question, which shows you that this is about trying to mandate ideology as opposed to dealing with reality. And I'm hopeful the court will make the right decision.
And even for the people that may view this gender ideology nonsense as legitimate and valid, just from an athletic standpoint, allowing somebody, a biological male that goes through all the biological processes of a male to compete in women's spaces deprives of female athletes of their ability to properly compete and actually achieve.
Yeah, biology is just certain on this. Men have larger hearts, have larger, capacity on that, have obviously deeper bone density, have more muscle mass. Not that there aren't a few women here and there that you could say she's got more of that than a particular man, but on average, not on average, almost universally, that's just true. And so it's talking about denying the opportunities for women and girls. And I wouldn't be so fired up about it, except I have a daughter who played college volleyball. Mm-hmm. So I've got a different look at this. Okay, anti-ICE protest ramping up around Minneapolis, among other places, following that shooting of 37-year-old Renee Good last week when she drove her vehicle at the ICE officer. DHS is deploying more agents to Minneapolis. Now, this comes as Minnesota and Illinois are filing lawsuits against the Trump administration, claiming that the federal agents are using what they're calling unlawful and dangerous tactics. Border czar Tom Homan tells Fox's America's Newsroom he ain't worried about those lawsuits.
We're enforcing laws enacted by Congress. If these protesters don't like it, go protest Capitol Hill, because we're enforcing laws that they enacted, and we're not going to apologize for doing it.
Okay, so the what we've got here is that the court rulings have been all over the map, depending on where you are in the country. So at some point, some of these massive questions are going to end up in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, but that could be a year or two.
Yeah. It's just interesting how many of these laws have been on the books since even before the Bush administration, and yet suddenly now that they're being reinforced again, it's this huge, massive deal.
Yeah. A Missouri lawmaker from Brentwood filing a bill to allow people in the country illegally if they were brought in as children, so we're talking about the so-called dreamers, allowing them to qualify for and be issued professional licenses in the fields that require professional licenses. So we're talking nurses and things like that. Democratic Representative Ray Reed says his bill would remove state barriers that prevent DACA recipients from working in those specific fields if they've completed their education and if they've passed the required exam.
This is the opportunity to bolster our workforce and show a sign to the immigrant community that Missouri is a place where they should feel comfortable and safe planning their routes.
And those comments were made to Public News Service. The legislation has received its second reading in the Missouri House, and what that really means is now it's awaiting an assignment to a committee, assuming that it will be assigned, and it probably will. I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I think it's going to be assigned.
Well, it's unfortunate that people are brought here when they're that young and they weren't able to consent to being brought to a new nation. And that is unfortunate. But at the same time, we have so many actual real American citizens that are out of work that could use these programs and give them more opportunities for employment.
Well, and here's the other thing is if you're now applying for that license and you've gone through the trade school or you've gone through the college or you've gone through the certification program for something like nursing or for something, okay, that means you're probably 20, 21, 22 at this point. That means you've had 2 decades to get your legal status right, and you still haven't. So that should be part of the discussion. I'm just saying that should be part of the discussion, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. St. Louis City's public school district loses full accreditation.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. The State Board of Education downgraded the district status to provisional accreditation on Tuesday. That means the state could step in and assume more oversight. Now, among the reasons cited by at least one of the board members is that the district has a pattern of failing to comply with audit requirements. So the accreditation isn't just about the academic performance and the scores, and they're atrocious in St. Louis City, but they still got some accreditation back. It's also about accountability and transparency, and they're failing at that almost as bad as they're failing at teaching kids.
Yeah, it's not exactly the easiest thing to lose accreditation.
Yeah.
So the fact that they lost it for something that had very little to do with their academic abilities, but just their uses of funds and their operations in general, that's especially egregious.
Yeah, and 3 years in a row. It's a pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're a mess. Okay, Blues get the win last night. They got a shutout. Final score at Enterprise was 3-0. All 3 goals happening in the second period. 3 different Blues found the net. All of them have weird names that I would probably mispronounce, so I'm not going to go into that. The Cardinals trade a future Hall of Famer. I knew this day was coming. I hate it. Third baseman Nolan Arenado is now a Diamondback, an Arizona Diamondback. This stings. This hurts. I'm wearing my Nolan Arenado jersey right now. My favorite Cardinal's no longer a Cardinal. He was traded for pitcher Jack Martinez and cash considerations. And what that really means is Jack Martinez going to be the big impact pitcher next year? Probably not. He was an 8th-round draft pick. But the point is the Cardinals have unloaded about $11 million in salary liability. And so I get what they're doing. I hate it. I think Nolan Arenado is going to have a great year now that he's back from his injuries. So I appreciate the aggressiveness. I just hate it. I hate it. We want the Cardinals to be aggressive. They're being aggressive. I just hate it because he's my favorite Cardinal.
My condolences, but on the bright side, at least he didn't go to the Cubs, right?
Oh, yeah. Without question. Actually, the Cubs are going to be really tough this year. I'm scared of the Cubs right now. So there you go, Stell, if you're listening. I'm scared of the Cubs this year. They are loading up.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Always be yourself, unless you suck.
On News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Chance Koch with your first alert forecast. Could see the possibility of some early morning light scattered flurries. For the most part, though, we're going to be tracking temperatures cooling down pretty dramatically. We're talking about afternoon highs only towards the mid-30s, then the overnight lows back towards the teens tonight. Thursday, temperatures back towards the mid-30s, partly sunny skies. Into Friday, could see the possibility of some light snow and even the possibility of some flurries. Temperatures back towards the mid-40s. For the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Koch.
Fox News commentary with David Marcus next.
If you're over 40 and plan to retire someday, the window to protect what you've built may be smaller than you realize. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've built becomes just as important as growing it. And that's where Noble Gold Investments comes in. They help investors reduce risk by adding gold and silver to their portfolios. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making investment decisions.
Here's David Marcus.
The buzz around Hollywood is that last year's film One Battle After Another
which features left-wing vigilantes triumphing over the evil American government, is set up to win a Best Picture Oscar. In Minneapolis, we saw what happens when this silver screen fantasy meets the bloody reality of the actual world, where during an altercation with ICE agents, 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was shot and killed. What seems clear is that an officer was struck by Good's car as she attempted to flee the scene, and he shot her through the windshield. What is less clear, at least to the critics of law enforcement, mainly on the left, is whether the officer in question could have used less deadly means in the situation. When Hollywood makes movies like One Battle After Another and celebrates anti-government violence, its brave stars like Leonardo DiCaprio don't get shot. They get rich. But that's because the movies are not real life. In real life, anti-cop vigilante violence does get people killed.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Tim Jones here from my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Simply put, they've helped me on many occasions. Here's another solution to your everyday aches and pains. The Studio Health and Wellness Center. Services include Pilates and yoga, both with certified instructors. I can also highly recommend the massage therapy, which is not an indulgence. It's a proven method of healing and restoration. Trust my friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
Hi, this is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the region's largest RE/MAX real estate brokerage. It is cold outside, but the real estate market is hot. This is a great time to buy or sell a home. Interest rates are also declining, which gives you more buying power. Someday is not a day on the calendar, but today is. Call me at 314-852-8933 for a free custom home buying plan. 314-852-8933.
Since 1981, Amis has been serving the St. Louis area mouth-watering pizza, pasta, and steaks made with love and passion. With 2 convenient locations in St. Louis and O'Fallon, we offer dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. From intimate dinners to large catering events, there's something for everyone on our menu. Visit us today or check out our full menu at amispizza.com.
This is what's happening.
The latest and largest batch of documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein.
Everything about this screams cover-up.
Who else is and who is not mentioned?
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Okay, so the governor's asking for bold moves, and he's asking for the state to eliminate the income tax. How is that going to work? Okay, very early this morning, we caught up with our friend Camellia Peterson from Americans for Prosperity, and she really filled this in a way to where when you see the arguments happening about it, the Democrats going, this is ridiculous and we can't do this, it's going to be... Okay, here's what Camellia had to say about it.
For his part, the governor is calling for those bold moves.
Yes.
In Missouri.
He wants, that's what he wanted to do.
That's what he said he wanted to do. He wants the state income tax eliminated. Now it's going to be the legislature's turn. We're now joined by Camellia Peterson, our friend from Americans for Prosperity. Camellia, you were obviously watching every word, listening to every word of this. The governor follows through, has a pretty aggressive, to use his term, bold moves proposal for the legislature, for the lawmaker. But let's start with the taxes. He's asking essentially that we step down and eventually eliminate the state income tax. And in exchange for that, we broaden the base of what is subject to our sales taxes. Am I oversimplifying it, or is that essentially what he's asking?
Good morning. No, I don't think you're oversimplifying it. I think he laid it out pretty well, and that's the plan. I think it sounds like it will be a multi-step plan. We'll take the first, step this year because we have to put it in front of the voters to, they have to give the okay to move forward with everything. So, yeah, I really appreciated what he had to say about that, and I think that he emphasized that we're doing this in a really responsible way. And, he said something when he was talking about where Missouri is in the country and in comparison to other states. And he talked about, I don't know if you heard this, but he said he's tired of being in the middle of the pack and, just pretending to, be satisfied with keeping pace with everyone else. And the one line in that entire speech that really struck me that I think just rings so true with where we are is he said, political expediency has confused survival with success. And that is so true because we've settled and it's time to stop settling and it's time to make those bold moves and, live up to our motto.
Right. Camellia, was there anything about his speech, and particularly in relation to the tax proposal, that caught you by surprise?
I think that we were all wondering kind of, were we going to do it all this year? Was it going to, how far out are we talking about as far as, the process to get there? And so I think that brought some clarity as far as, how it was going to work in terms of getting this first step done this session. And then once the voters approve that, then working through all the details and getting that phase out done.
Okay, we're visiting with Camellia Peterson from our friends at Americans for Prosperity. Okay, so obviously, the other side is, they're actually trying to bring back what the Republicans tried to tag Mike Kehoe with back in the campaign. They're saying tax hike, Mike, and they're pointing to, hey, you've got services now that would be taxed that aren't taxed right now. Therefore, that's a tax increase. And technically, that's correct. Things like streaming services. Now, there were some exemptions, healthcare and things like that. He said he would like to see exempted. So are we just rearranging the tax burden into different line items, or would this actually be a functional tax cut?
So I think it will be both. And I think that, first of all, it will give people more control over what they pay as far in taxes. However, he did talk about something that I think that we have to face and look at and, acknowledge is that things have changed a great deal since our taxing structure was put into place. We are in a very digital economy. How we do our purchasing has changed drastically. And so that has to change how we do taxes too. And I think that we've kind of been in fits and starts, trying to get there when you talk about the use tax. And there's that, argument between, well, if you have to pay taxes on stuff you buy on the internet versus stuff you buy in brick and mortar stores. And, there's some good arguments to be made for doing it in an equal way so that tax burden is spread evenly across the board. And I think that's really what we're looking at. And I do think that in all of this, the idea is that if we do this right and it spurs so much growth in the economy, we will end up being able to reduce other taxes as well, including property taxes.
What about on spending? Did you feel like that was adequately acknowledged? Do you feel like there's some hope, some glimmers of hope of progress on reining in spending?
Yes, I will say it's probably difficult for them to give real specifics on that because it's challenging. One of the things he pointed out is that we passed Medicaid expansion in the state, and that really impacted our budget. And it's one of those things that we can't, we can't do anything with that. We're stuck with it now. And so that makes the budget a little more intractable. But there are lots of things because this COVID spending is going away. And we will see, we've seen in the Senate DOJ committee already, we've seen bills to clean things up and make things more efficient and get rid of these inefficiencies. And that's one of the things and that will save us money in doing that too. And that's one of the things that the governor talked about is that he wants Missouri to align with President Trump's DOJ idea because, so he is appointing these task forces. He's having the agencies work with stakeholders in the community so that they come up with real life business efficient solutions to make government work better and leaner because we're going to have to cut those expenses.
Yeah, Susie, I'm glad you asked about that. I want to follow up on that regarding the spending cuts because, he actually addressed the whole criticism of, oh, you're going to be like Kansas, instead of, people looking at other states that have done more, more balanced approaches on this. The spending cuts are crucial if there's going to be any tax cuts whatsoever. I mean, if you're just trying to come up with new revenue somewhere else and have the same budget, then you don't have to worry about spending cuts. But if you're going to cut the tax burden, you have to cut spending. That's just math. I mean, that's not deep-seated policy wonkiness. That's just math. So
Right.
as you're in the Capitol, you're talking to the lawmakers, in an election year. Let's be honest. Sometimes there's a little squishiness when it comes to actually cutting some of the spending and opening yourself up to that criticism. Do you think that there is a mood to be bold, to use the governor's terms, when it comes to not just cutting or changing the taxes, but also cutting the spending? Because he's talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in cuts.
Yes, well, and I kind of chuckled a little bit at this part in his speech whenever he was talking about making those cuts, because he pointed out that the budget is a conservative budget, and the spending needs to be cut. But he said, come June, when that budget hits his desk, like he basically implied that he's going to be doing a whole lot of that line item vetoing on the budget. So I think that he is very cognizant, and he's basically putting the legislature on notice that, look, if you don't work out these cuts in the budget process in the legislature, I'll be doing that when it comes to my desk.
Okay, and I hate to be the skeptic on all of this, and I completely believe the governor that he will do that. That also allows cover for the lawmakers to say, well, it got cut, but gosh darn it, I tried. I put it in there. The governor cut it, and so there may be some political games that prevent some of those cuts on the front end where they should be. So I believe that the governor would actually cut those, because let's be honest, he does not have to worry about reelection in 2028 in this deep red state.
That's true.
Barring some massive scandal, which I just can't see because I've known him a long time, he's going to get reelected. So that would actually give lawmakers some cover, which is not the incentive to cut that I would like to see. I would like them to say, this is the right thing to do. This is what's good for our economy. This is what's good at reining in government. And so there's a little bit of that political nonsense that could be involved in that. But I hope and I suspect the governor is very serious about that.
I do too. And here's the thing, that this is where organizations like Americans for Prosperity come in. This is where the grassroots come in, because this is where it's really important for us to keep the heat on and to keep that in the conversation and that pressure on for the legislators to make those cuts. And I will say one more reason maybe for some optimism is we've had some change in the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, and it'll be really interesting to see kind of how that functions this session, because the former chair of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate was a real obstacle for getting any of those kind of cuts done. In fact, forced more spending all the time. And I think, with Representative Dirk Deaton, chairing the Budget Committee in the House, I'm looking for good things from, those budget committees this year.
Camellia, as much of a political nerd as I am, I even get confused by this a little bit. So I'm hoping you can help us understand or explain a little bit better. So the governor lays out his agenda. The legislature is going to be charged with coming up with legislation that lays out this process for reducing the income tax. But then what's going to go to the voters?
Great question. Yeah.
Sure. So in the budget process, the governor lays out his proposed budget, and there are a set different categories of bills that different parts of the budget go into. And so the committees in the House and the Senate have to go through those, and they, make changes to them, vote on them, things like, and it really is, when they get everything done, it is really the finished piece that comes to the body for a vote, and they can either vote yes or no, and a lot of times a lot of them will vote no on some budget bills, because there's usually I think like usually 18 or 19 of them that are separate that they go through individually. And so, if there's not agreement also between the House and the Senate on those bills, then they have to come in together and hash that out. And then once that's done, it goes to the governor's desk. The people's leverage in this is their legislators, because most of the legislators, if you're not on the committee, your leverage comes in, and if you're going to rubber stamp the budget bills that come to the floor, and whether you vote yes or no on it, the people's part in the tax part this year will be on the income tax part of the ballot.
Yeah, because if I'm understanding the Hancock Amendment correctly in Missouri law, and please correct me if I'm wrong about this, lawmakers, the state government can cut taxes without asking people to vote on it.
Yes.
But if they want to add new taxes or raise taxes, then they have to go to a vote of the people. So it seems to me that the governor is implying that, okay, I want to put not just the broader base of the tax things that will be taxed on the ballot, but at the same time, I'm going to ask him, do you want to trade one for the other? So they don't necessarily have to put the tax cut on the ballot, but it sounds like that's what he's suggesting as a package for the people. And so the lawmakers will have to decide whether they follow his lead to exactly what he wants or whether they have some other version of it.
That's correct. Yeah, it does have to any time, because, technically we would be adding those sales taxes back onto some of those areas. And I will point out, though, that these are literally loopholes. They are carve out. So it's not it's not unfair to spread this out onto those different things, because, people who are producing, certain kinds of things that are tangible goods, in our communities, they are having to charge tax for other people's production that they are contributing to the community is not taxed. So I think that, it really is in a lot of ways a trade-off, but because it technically is an increase on a tax in a certain aspect, it still has to go to the voters for approval.
Makes sense.
All right. Camellia Peterson, Americans for Prosperity. We've already tagged you, as always, on social media. Really appreciate the update on this. We're hopefully letting you on. I'm gonna try to get the governor back on either later this week, probably early next week, to go kind of through this all the way, because this is really complicated. And he told us this, and Camellia was there. You were there with the conversation, and he basically just acknowledged this isn't a soundbite policy. This is deep stuff in the weeds, because there's literally about $9 billion at stake here.
That's right. And I will say, if folks want to go look, I noticed last night that, the House bills, I believe, have it, because he noted in the speech that Speaker Peterson and Senator Curtis Trent would be handling this bill in the legislature. And so Speaker Peterson did file HJR 165 yesterday afternoon. So that is there if folks want to look it up and go take a look.
All right. Thanks, Camellia. We'll talk to you again soon.
We're officially calling for it. You have 80s flashback music, and I want it for Flashback Fridays. This week's themes is songs that make you want to go bananas, since those little rascals are still on the loose around the St. Louis area. And apparently we actually have a monkey watch with Tony Colombo. So go ahead and send me the best going bananas 80s bump music that you have to Jerome at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that, because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Why leave your company's story to chance? In today's digital world, video content isn't just an option. It's essential for your success. At Blue Ocean Media Group, we've spent decades crafting compelling visual stories for businesses just like yours. From concept to completion, our award-winning team transforms your vision into powerful video content that connects with your audience and drives results. Don't trust your brand to amateurs. Partner with Blue Ocean Media Group. Visit blueoceanmediagroup.com today, and let's bring your story to life.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Remember in Trading Places when the orange juice closed at 29 cents and Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy were so happy? What happened there? Well, ask Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management about that. Wednesday at 10:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on News Talk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Is that Primus?
No. This is Godsmack.
Godsmack. Okay, that like thumping bass, that like plucking thumping bass, that sounded like Primus.
Yeah, no, now that you point that out, I hear exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, so guys, okay, all right, all right, 8:53 right now. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to be going on assignment after the show today. We have, Tony Colombo, like us here. We're Team Monkey.
Yes.
In St. Louis. So I'm going to go on the search for the monkeys. So I'm going to be contributing to Tony's show today as part of his Monkey Watch series in St. Louis. So I know some places I'm going to go. I got some leads, so we're going to have that a little bit later on today. All right. I didn't get a lot of time to talk about this because we have so much heavy freaking stuff going on, in the news. And by the way, check out our podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to that. You can actually subscribe to the show and just get a notice when we have one of these conversations. That discussion with Camellia Peterson broke that down into such simple terms regarding what's being proposed. And so you can find that and share that with anybody on social media, or just follow me on X. I'm at AVP Mike Ferguson. AVP as in American Viewpoints, which is my other project. So find me there, follow me, and I'm going to post that a little bit later. I'm going to tag News Talk STL, so make sure you're following News Talk STL. You can hear it there. You can share it. It's really easy. Also, that discussion about Scott Adams, with Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, that was really fascinating. I thought, it's a really hot topic on the internet. Let's do something real quick. But boy, that really was fascinating.
Yeah, we've gotten to a very interesting cultural point where it's not enough to report the facts about somebody's passing and what their legacy was and what their achievements were. You also have to remind people, hey, we took this side of the, whatever the controversy was, and you need to remember X, Y, and Z, or you need to forget X, Y, and Z.
And because I couldn't remember. I remember he got, kind of in trouble and he lost his cartoon business. He lost his vocation, basically. And what he said definitely raised eyebrows. There was a poll that was done that basically said, is it okay to be white? And there was a significant number of Black Americans who were surveyed who said no. And there was like 21% who said, I don't know. And he sort of blasted those results. And, and he said, well, clearly, Black people are a hate group. And, and he flat out said, I'm doing that to be provocative. I don't know that he didn't mean every Black person was a hate group. But what he said was a PR consultant would say, yeah, that's ill-advised. So he crossed a line, and you had to know there were going to be consequences. Reason Magazine, which about a third of the time Reason Magazine is just dead on, and I love what they do. About a third of the time, I'm like, I'm going to have to think about that. I'm not sure. Another third of the time, I think they're off their rocker. It's just typical libertarian stuff. But they made the argument, no, Scott Adams was not canceled. He knew what the consequences were going to be when he said something like that. Well, that's a fair argument. And then he went on social media and with his podcast and everything to just be kind of a provocateur. And you can be a provocateur in a good way. You can be a provocateur in a bad way.
Yes.
You can stir something up in order to force people into thinking about something. You can also stir something up just because you want clicks and you want to piss people off.
Yeah.
And all you want to do is cause chaos and hurt and damage and all that sort of thing. And I'll let everybody decide what they think Scott Adams was doing on that. But then when his cancer diagnosis came in and it became obvious it was terminal, Then he started asking serious questions, going back and forth on matters of faith, which so many people struggle with. Mm-hmm. Just human nature to do that. And so I think there was a lot of things that he struggled with and mistakes that he made and contributions that he made that just resonated with a lot of people. You know, I didn't follow him particularly closely, so I don't have as strong an opinion as others do on him. But that conversation with Jennifer is going to be up on the podcast here in a little bit. I really encourage you to check that out, and we're going to put that up on social media here in, I don't know, a couple hours or so, hour and a half, maybe something like that.
Make your holiday special with Anthony's Produce, serving our community for over 28 years. Order fresh fruit and vegetable trays for work parties, family gatherings, and celebrations. Send chocolate-covered strawberries or a stunning fruit